Welcome to Founders Club, the show for real estate entrepreneurs.
Hey, if we can build a model which would give them people time back, that would be amazing. So our pitch was this. Hey, Oliver, if you sell 7 or more listings a year, the Telus platform saves you 1 day a week. What would you do with an extra 52 days a year?
I love that.
That was the only pitch.
Welcome to another episode of Founders Club. I'm very excited to be out here today at the Hotel Del Coronado, interviewing Sharran Srivatsaa about how he 10x'd his business from 300 million to 3.4 billion in 5 short years. He's going to be sharing the entire story.
If your content is not even worth your car payment, then you should be producing nothing. Like, stop it.
And a lot of tactical information that you can use in your business to grow, increase profits, increase joy, and lower stress. Looking forward to jumping in. So, after long-awaited adieu, is that how you say it? After a lot of back and forth, I finally am very excited to be sitting down with Sharran about his journey and all the amazing things that he's been able to do in the real estate space. So very excited to have you on the show. I'm drinking a Coronado, some like it blonde, and Sharran is enjoying a Bombay and tonic.
That's right.
So
yeah.
Cheers. Thank you. Looking
Cheers.
Forward to
Cheers.
Pulling some nuggets out of this guy. You started the 5 a.m. club. Tell me about that.
So about 4-5 years ago, I don't talk a lot about this, but I was struggling with my health. It was to the point where I was getting so many blood tests that it got 1 week I was getting blood tests in the morning and in the evening, and my doctor called me when he said, hey, these last few tests that we had done, your numbers look better in the morning than they do in the evening. You should just wake up earlier, you'll live longer. And he was actually joking. It was just making conversation. And I took it seriously. So I said, how do I wake up? And he went with this joke. And I was not a morning person. So I said, the only way I could wake up is if I got some accountability and got some friends in the process. So I got 3 of my last 3 people I text messaged. I texted them and said, hey, for the next week, would you mind chiming into this conference call number? I just need to wake up and you're my accountability partners. They said at 5 a.m. Pacific time. After saying yes, they said, well, what are you going to say on this call? And so we got on the call and I told them I'd give them either an inspirational message or something that we worked through, no more than 3 to 5 minutes. And that marked like the first week of the 5 a.m. club with 3 people on. Those 3 realized it was okay and they invited 3 more and they invited 10 more, invited 50 more. And today we have almost 4,000 people on the call at 5 a.m. every morning.
Wow.
And we do it 7 days a week, 365 days a year, holidays included. It's 5 minutes at 5 a.m. free to the world.
And so it grew completely organically.
Yeah, completely organically. It was people promoted people, people invited people.
That's amazing.
And now I have some guest hosts because I mix up my voice a little bit in there. But we do it 7 days a week, 365 days a year, and
every day,
every single day. We have a couple of billionaires on the call. We have it's mostly 70% entrepreneurs.
Wow. And
then a good third from the real estate industry. So it's been all growing organically.
And that's amazing. That's a very cool story. I didn't know that it was kind of out of need that you started it.
Yeah.
I always kind of assumed you were like a morning person and just loved getting up and getting after it. But that's interesting that's...
Yeah, and I think it's a testament to people that if you really want to change something about your life, you totally can. And I don't mean that in a hokey kind of way.
Right.
But I thought the impetus and the trigger was the health. But I went from being a night owl, a complete night owl. Like I would stay up till 2 a.m.
Totally.
And then flip the whole switch, and now if I don't wake up at 4:45 every morning, it's not as fun. So if anybody's interested, 5amclub.net.
Very cool. 5amclub.net. Definitely go check that out. I think that's a great way, and it's only 5 minutes.
Yeah.
What do you do at 5:05?
So I've realized that this one thing that I talk about a lot, which is routines drive results. And after you're in the morning, you've shared a message like, I'm up.
Right.
You know, there's no hope of going back because to share a good message.
Once you're on, you're on.
You're on.
Yeah.
And so I try to use that hour time well. I try to either get a quick workout or walk in, and I try to write or think. Use that hour in the morning well. Everybody says, oh, you need to journal, you need to meditate, you need to work out, you need to do burpees, you need to like drink a kale smoothie. Like how many things can you do at 5 in the morning, right?
Right.
So I decided that was my time, it was my personal time away from my family. Yeah. So no pressure, like I'm up. Whatever I get to want to feel like doing, I use that time very personally for that. And some days I just sit there and I play on my phone, and I guess that's okay too.
Yeah.
But at least I've gotten it out.
I think that's a really important message too, because like a lot of people, they just feel like they can't get enough stuff done in the day. And what I've found too is, because I always go to the office early, I'm usually in by like 7 o'clock, and that first 2 hours of the day is when I actually get the most stuff done by far, because the phone's not ringing, the emails aren't blowing up, the people aren't coming in and out of the office.
Yeah.
So it's been a shift. So getting up at 5 and listening to a nice positive message and then getting your day going is huge.
Yeah.
One thing you mentioned, I watched your interview on The Passionate Few, which was awesome, by the way.
Thank you.
So shout out to them. You should check that out as well. One thing that you said, though, is that you said the 5 a.m. club changed your life. Is that the health thing, or is that because you've become more productive, or what was the message behind that?
So the message behind that was that a lot of times we go through our lives, and if you look back and you say, hey, Oliver, what are your top 10 accomplishments, or things that you're proud of? You'll instantly go to, hey, my family. That's generally on my work with Sam is top few, right? Mm-hmm. Now, if you ask me now and I turn back and I look at my life, multiple sold companies, bunch of great, fortunate to do a lot of things, amazing family. I'd say my family's number one, the 5 a.m. club is number two, because never have I ever done anything for 1,000, 1,200 days in a row and coming up with a message, and actually, it's an opportunity to change a lot of lives without knowing who these people are. There are people on the call that have fixed their marriages. Like I had 2 people that were struggling that got off of the call every day, and I still don't know who they are. They sent a random message in. I know one of my friends, Jason Ferris in Fresno, California, lost 142 pounds because they used the call as an anchor to go work out. I have a whole 7th grade classroom in Texas that listens to the call every single morning because their teacher listens to the call.
Wow.
And once a quarter, they actually send me drawings and letters, etc. So it changed my life because it gave me a true sense of public accountability. So I can't sleep in anymore.
Yeah.
Ever.
Right.
Ever.
7 days a week.
7 days a week, right?
Yeah.
And yes, you can get a sub, but knowing that you can completely build a new routine and still touch people that you don't know, and it happened every day and it happened for free.
It's really amazing.
Yeah.
It
So
really
it's changed my life. I can never. That's the one thing that I'm the most proud of outside of my family. Awesome. And my family, I didn't even do anything. Like I just, my wife does all the work.
Very, very cool. I mean, the impact that you have had on people through that platform is just unbelievable. And I see it at, we're at a Lab Coat Agents event right now, and you can't go down the hall more than 10 feet, and every 10 feet someone's coming up to Sharran, giving him hugs, giving him love, telling him how awesome he is, which he is. And so very cool, man. Props on that. 5amclub.net. Definitely go subscribe and get on the calls. One other thing that you said in that interview that I thought was really awesome, and I think you said your dad said this to you when you were growing up, is create tomorrow today.
Yeah.
And I think as an entrepreneur, that's like a very powerful thing for people to do. So why don't you tell me a little bit more about creating tomorrow today?
Yeah, so as mostly, especially entrepreneurs, I'll tell the story very quickly. So my dad, I will never forget, we were very, middle-class, humble family. I was the only child. My parents chose not to have more children because they didn't have enough resources to actually give more than one child a decent life. And so my parents did things very intentionally. They didn't have a lot, but I still remember every night, like Oliver, every night we would finish dinner, we'd start to clean up, etc. My dad would take a few minutes, he would go sit down at the kitchen table and he would start writing. And I remember the notebook, it was very similar to yours. He would write the date on top, and he would just write a list of everything that he was going to accomplish tomorrow. Not a to-do, but things that he was going to accomplish, right? Which meant that he ain't coming home unless those things got done.
Right.
And he would decide and design, create tomorrow. He would do it the night before. And I saw my dad, the days that he would lose his cool more often, etc., were the days that he didn't do that. And he did that 99% of the time. And so he always would tell me, before I left for college, he told me, he's like, if there's one thing I could give you, I'd be just plan what you're going to do tomorrow, today, create tomorrow, today. Otherwise, you're just going to wake up and go by the seat of your pants. He's like, I'm not asking you to plan 10 years ahead. I'm not asking you to plan a year ahead. Just plan tomorrow.
Love that.
And my dad is retired. He still does that every single day. And it's like one of my strongest memories. And like for the CEOs that I mentor outside the real estate industry, like I just tell them, I have CEOs right now of $100 million plus companies texting me their schedule every single day because they planned tomorrow, today. And we have agents, brokers, etc., that won't plan like what they're going to say to a client sometimes.
Yeah, exactly.
And so now there's a reason why CEOs of $100 million companies are CEOs of $100 million companies, and they don't mind doing the mechanical work of planning tomorrow, today.
It's almost like, this is one of the things that our coach talks about a lot, is if you're not planning, it's like going out to sea in a boat and just disconnecting everything with no map and just floating and just seeing where you end up.
Yeah.
Right? Like that doesn't sound very appealing. So by taking, I'm sure it's not more than 5 minutes.
Nothing.
5-10 minutes. Take the time to map out your day the next day. What a great way to start the day. Then you're clear, you're intentional about what you're doing.
Exactly right.
And you can maximize results.
Yeah, exactly right. And from an entrepreneurial perspective, for your listener, what is the only thing that affects entrepreneurs is overwhelm. They say yes to too many things. They want to do more than they can handle.
And the shiny red button.
Yeah, totally, right? And that's the only way to separate overwhelm from anything else, overwhelm from success is it's the plan. You're just saying, hey, there's these 100 rocks. I want to use all of them, but I'm going to do 13 tomorrow. Mm-hmm. That's all it is. So it's a very mechanical exercise. And you and I, being entrepreneurs, we don't want to do the mechanical exercises. We think it's like, we're not that we're above that. We don't need to do that, but that's probably, call it 101. It's probably the basics. That's what we need, fundamentals.
Very foundational, very powerful. And you're still doing that to this day?
Every single day.
Love that.
Every single day.
I'm gonna start doing that. This is my commitment. Sharran's gonna hold me accountable. I'm gonna do this every day.
Oliver's gonna send me like a picture of his journal, right?
Yeah, for sure. I'll do that. One thing that you talked about was your journey from India to the United States. I've talked to a lot of people recently about just like what that transition was like, but I'm curious what it was like for you. Was it just complete culture shock, and at what age was that in your life?
Yeah, so when I left, so the backstory is that my parents realized that I was ADD, ADHD, or had symptoms thereof. I was dyslexia or had symptoms thereof, and that's why I got kicked out of music camp, kicked out of art camp, kicked out of science camp, and only because I was structurally struggling to do this. And I remember there's no formal diagnosis, but my dad said to me, he goes, hey, like we need to give you a better infrastructure to succeed, and India's probably not the right fit for it. And my parents sold everything that they had, every single thing that they had, and to give me, to get me out of India. It was less about culture shock, and it was more about, I feel a responsibility because my parents sacrificed so much. Again,
that's interesting.
Yes, I feel like so much, right? Like I can't. What do I do? Go back now? I can't.
Because they put it all on the line for you.
Yeah.
Now you feel like you almost have to perform.
Yeah,
to not let your parents down.
Totally, and I still feel like that sometimes today. And because I can never repay my family for putting everything on the line and letting me go be me. And that's, for an only child, that's hard to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you don't have the financial resources to do it either. So it's more a response. I feel a sense of responsibility.
That's great.
And I think our kids have it easy. Yeah.
So tell me about, like, did you always know you were an entrepreneur? Because I feel like a lot of people that I know that are successful entrepreneurs, they have that, like, I used to be ADD thing.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's just maybe part of, like, the DNA of being an entrepreneur, or if that's actually you had ADD, or what?
Yeah.
Like, when did you recognize that?
Yeah, so what I realized was it was more about being impatient. And I just felt like everything just took too long. It was like, hey, why does it take us this long to build this company? Why does it take us this long to create this result? Why does it take us this long to do this? And I just wanted things faster. And I believe that when you're an entrepreneur, you get to buy time. Like, how can I say, it doesn't need to be perfect, but can I get a 90% result as soon as possible? So I realized I was really impatient. Mm-hmm. And so, like, I remember doing a paper route when I was a kid. And I was like, that paper route is so inefficient. And my dad was like, well, you should go do it. I'm like, I will, and I'll get the route done in half the time. My dad's like, that's crazy. But you have this need, I think there's this incessant need to make the ordinary better, make something that does not exist, actually make it real. And
to tinker.
Oh, totally tinker.
Yeah.
And I think we get a lot of joy tinkering and not having built anything. Like the process is so much more exciting for us. So I almost believe, Oliver, that the entrepreneurship is a curse. Like it's a curse because, and I'll tell you why. My wife, the kindest person that I know, she has to live with someone that is constantly on their phone, not because I'm trying to be rude, that constantly needs stimulation, that goes to the beach and can't relax, that can't play with the kids. And it's not that I don't care about my kids, it's just that there's too many ideas, there's too much wanting to do more, and I think it's a curse. And my wife and I have talked significantly about that. And so now she understands that if she forces me into a box to do something, which is what I didn't want to be in, same for you.
Yeah.
And when I realized that impatience, and it's actually a superpower. I don't mean to be hokey, but that's the advantage.
Right.
Right. And so.
And I think to add to the curse part, I think a big part of that is the not being able to turn it off.
100%.
Right.
Yeah.
When you're at home, you want to be present, you want to be at home, you want to be giving them the attention that they need, but at the same time, your brain might be over here working on what am I going to build, how can I do this, how can I improve this?
And my wife said something amazing. She said, she said to me, I stopped saying to you, be present, because I know what you're going to say. And I said, what do you think I was going to say? She's like, well, you wanted to say it, but you didn't say it. She goes, so I would always say in my mind, this is really bad, I always say in my mind, well, if you want me to pay attention, make it interesting. Right?
Good luck with that.
But that's amazing because now what we are drawn to is we want to go to only time that there's only 2 times an entrepreneur can turn it off. 2 times outside of sleeping. Number 1, even that's really hard, by the way, right? 2 times. Number 1, when you go watch an amazing movie, you can actually turn it off. And number 2, when you have some kind of sports or entertainment, when you have to focus on something else.
Right, and it's in your face.
That's it.
Yeah.
You want all the entrepreneurs are standing in the Guns N' Roses concert behind the speaker because they're distracted by everything else.
Yeah.
And I think that's the only time you can get us to turn off. So the only time I turn off is when I watch a movie or I play a sport. And every other time, like running is like the worst because I think about stuff all the time.
And I share that, man. It's a big challenge. The other thing I wanted to ask you in terms of like your earlier years was I read in Forbes an article about you having being broke in college and actually having to eat food out of a dumpster because you were so broke. And to think about like being there and how far you've come and the things you've been able to do is quite remarkable. Yeah. So why don't you tell me like quickly that backstory, but then like how that might have shaped you moving forward.
Totally. So I show up at college my freshman year from India, and I have a couple $100, not more than that. I remember I had a $100 bill and a little change, and I had a check for school that my parents sold everything and gave me this check. I went to financial services, I hand the check in, and she says, Sharran, everything's good to go, but it's an international check, so it's gonna take 10 to 14 days to clear. So I was like, that's cool, whatever. So I realized that I don't have any meal points on my meal card in the cafeteria because my check never cleared. But it was gonna happen in 14 days. So I went to all these college pizza parties and all of that. And finally, the pizza parties run out. And I'd gone maybe a day and a half, and I hadn't eaten. And I saw somebody take a couple of boxes of pizza and throw it in a dumpster. So I waited till it was nightfall, put my hoodie on, I jump in the dumpster, I find a couple slices of pizza, I grab it, and I run to my dorm room. And then I think, oh my gosh, this is delicious pizza. Like, this is fantastic. But so grateful, so grateful, so thankful. And then when a couple of days go by, I see a couple of guys throw like these Subway sandwiches into a dumpster. I was like, this is my lucky night.
I'm about to come up.
I wait for nightfall, I jump into the dumpster, I grab these couple of bags of Subway sandwiches, and I also see Pop-Tarts. I've never seen Pop-Tarts before. They're the good old, they're the American classic, right?
Yeah.
And so I'm looking at these boxes. I grabbed them because they looked like strawberries on them. I grabbed them. Suddenly something whacks me in the face. I start bleeding, and I look, and it's this raccoon in the dumpster. And we're talking about, it's not big. We're talking like a 10 by 5 dumpster.
Right.
And the raccoon's in the corner. I can hear the raccoon growling. Fight or flight kicks in. I kick the raccoon, I grab the Pop-Tarts, I grab the Subway sandwich, and I jump out of the dance, and I run. I run all over like I have never run before. But I didn't know what else to do. I could not ever do that again.
That's crazy.
But the fight or flight totally kicked in, and I stopped, and I ate the sandwich. And I was thinking, oh my gosh, if my parents who had given up so much only knew that this is what had happened, if this is the baseline, if this is what I have to work with, it can only get better from here.
Yeah, can't get worse, for
and
sure.
so I always think, if worst case scenario, if that's what happens, we'll still be okay. And I think from an entrepreneur's perspective, it helps you take more risk.
Yeah.
Because people always are like, hey, this is my band.
And also be less afraid to lose.
Totally.
Right? Yeah.
That's why you hear stories of people that are saying, hey, I went from bankruptcy and I came back. Like, why? Because they were able to do it all over again. Once you hit a low point and you can have a lesson from that, my lesson is more, if this is what it takes, I can just take more risk than most people.
Right.
And because most people are unwilling to do that. Worst case scenario, that's what's going to happen. But for us, we take a lot of risk every day. We lay it on the line every day. Buildings, businesses are all in our name.
Right.
And I learned that I can just take a little bit more risk.
I love that. Yeah. That's crazy. And what a great story around like really being down and out. In my mind, that just illustrates perfectly how no matter what situation you're in right now, like there's always room to get better, and at the very least, hopefully you've got food on the table and a roof over your head, right? And you just keep plugging.
Yeah.
So then what was next, right? Like you've been an entrepreneur for a long time. You've had several successful runs at companies. What was the first entrepreneurial journey?
So the first one actually started in college. I showed up in my first dorm room and I realized, this was old school when we were in college, no Wi-Fi, right? So they had just put in Ethernet cables in the dorm room, but as soon as you enter the door, there was the box, and then there was the bed, the closet, and the desk. And I said, that's so weird. Like, there's 13 feet from the box to the desk. So I went to Minneapolis and I bought this cable, and I realized, oh my gosh, like someone has to go a whole day, buy cable, get it cut to the right size. So me and my roommate at that time, we put everything on his parents' card. We bought rolls and rolls of Ethernet cable because I didn't have any clothes in college, and we sold Ethernet cable to like 900 dorm rooms at $3 a foot. We made $57,000 in 3 weeks, and that paid for my second year of college.
That's unbelievable. So let me just rewind that. You went to college. You only had 1 year covered.
Correct.
So now you're in the I need to hustle to make this continue to happen.
Right.
So you saw an opportunity because in the dorm rooms it wasn't convenient or close enough to get the wires to connect to the computer to the outlet.
Yep.
So you went and basically imported computer cables. And then sold them to everyone in the dorm.
Yeah, cut them to the right size and sold them to everyone. $3 a foot.
And you made 57 grand in 3 weeks.
Yeah.
That's unbelievable.
Yeah, and that paid for the second year of school.
That's unbelievable.
Yeah.
Good for you.
Yeah.
So what paid for the third and fourth year?
So I did internships, and I had a mail route, a paper route, and I did internships, and I taught tennis. Those are the three things that I did in college, and that paid for everything. And I was very fortunate. We got out, and I had a friend like co-sign a small loan for me, but other than that, we got it all paid for.
Good for you, man. What a cool story. Back to the entrepreneurial thing. There was, you told me a while back about a business that you started right out of college.
Yeah.
Which was your first big acquisition.
Yeah.
Tell me about that whole thing.
I was presenting at a nerd programming contest, a computer science programming contest in Berkeley, California. And there's this guy who was up on the panel of judges. So I didn't win the contest. I was on the panel. This guy comes to me after and he says, hey, Sharran, I love your idea. I'm sorry you didn't win, but I just funded a few others to start a company. I think what you're writing about, your technology, would actually be a good fit for that. And so he made the connection, and I joined them. I was not an early founder, but I joined them at a good time early, and then we integrated what I wanted to do into that business. And it was during the heyday of the technology boom, so we were able to raise a lot of money, and then we got acquired, and it was a good transaction for everybody.
And that just happened because you were presenting at this fair.
Yeah.
Happened to get
a judge on the panel. Yep.
Wow.
Yeah, and so the interesting part about that is the guy who was a judge on the panel that day, who gave me that shot, is 20 years later is my partner.
Wow.
So he became my partner then. He helped me invest more, helped me find companies, get into real estate, and we've been partners ever since. We've been partners in every venture ever since up until today.
Still?
Yeah, still today.
Wow.
He and I are 50-50 partners.
Look at you.
Yeah,
man,
similar to you. And
that's really amazing.
Yeah.
What's his name?
His name is Peter.
Peter.
Yeah.
Shout out to Peter.
Yeah.
You've done good with this man right here. So then you did that, right? You had the acquisition, and then you went to Goldman?
Yeah, so then, so after we sold our first business, I was barely 21. I was like, what do I do with all this cash? So I paid off all debt, et cetera, and I took 5 years off. every 21-year-old's dream.
Oh my God.
So I taught tennis in the Caribbean, Dubai, and Maui for 5 years.
That must have been rough.
But actually, you get, after a while, I can never do that again. You got rock fever, and you're working in the hospitality industry. And then I said, well, I got to actually do something to get back in mainstream America. So I went to business school, got my MBA, and then I was an investment banker at Goldman Sachs in New York.
That's not easy to get into,
No.
right? So what made you feel like Goldman was the right choice, and then how did you get in?
Yeah. When you get to business school, everyone has like 3 or 4 career paths. And everyone said, hey, investment banking is the hardest. They're going to put you through the ringer in the interview process. But don't even bother with Goldman because the stats are almost impossible. They're stacked against you.
Right.
And it's true. It's totally true.
Yeah.
The odds are stacked against you. So what happened was I started down the interview process. And I had 39 individual scheduled one-on-one interviews to get the job at Goldman. This is not including breakfast, lunches, dinners, coffees. This is 39 interviews in 4 cities, one-on-one scheduled interviews, just in a 7 to 10 week time frame to get the job.
And how many of those are with the same people versus new people?
Not many repeats. I'd say probably 80% of them were all new people, not the same people.
Wow. So is that like their general screening process?
I think they were unsure of me the most, probably. But so I had a lot more than the average. But in the teens, 13 to 15 seemed average. But when I told people I had 39,
it's unbelievable.
Yeah, they wondered that. They're like, wow, they were really not sure about you.
That's crazy. 39 interviews. I don't know. Did you ever get discouraged during that process? Like maybe this is too long of a road. And how long of a period of time were those?
It's about like 7-8 weeks.
Okay.
It's like a whole semester of college because you're just doing that.
So you're getting interviewed like every other day.
Yeah, you're on, so you did multiple a day. So I did like a day in I would do like 2 days in San Francisco where I do 10 interviews. I fly to Atlanta, I do 4. I fly to New York, I do 8. They say go to Chicago, and they pay for all of it to go get interviewed.
Right.
But you're going back to back to back to back. So you'll appreciate the story. I'll never forget this, right? I walk into this interview, this managing partner, amazing businessman, been at Goldman 15, 20 years. He walks in, I can tell he's putting on a show, and he sits down, he grabs a notebook, like a leather-bound notebook. He goes, these are all my prospects. These are people that I have never talked to in the last 3 years. Here's a phone, here's my prospects, call them. And I said, wait, what are you talking about? And I said, well, so I composed myself, and I said, okay, can you give me a script?
Yeah.
Because I have no idea what to say to them. Can you give me a script?
Right.
Oliver, I kid you not. He picks the book up, he puts it in his backpack, he shakes my hand, and he says, you'll do great. And he walks out the door. And before I said, wait, why did you say that? He goes, I do that in every interview, and everyone wants to be a hot shot. Everyone wants to come in and show me that they've got the skills to make the call, that they're brave. He said, what you said was good. You said, hey, I'm willing to do the work.
Yeah.
Just show me how, walk me down the path a little bit.
Yep.
And that's when I learned that I have a friend, his name is Jason Capital. He says that when you don't script, you don't care, right? When you don't script, you don't care. And I'm not saying you need to have your entire presentation scripted out, but there's some key positioning moments. Questions, exactly, that you should be thoughtful about. And until then, I had never scripted anything, and then I realized that scripting is about precision. Like you wanna take have the emotion, but you want to do it right as many times as possible.
That's a great way to look at it because it is precision. And it's consistency, right? If you've worked with experts to develop a script that is designed to get you the result you want faster,
correct?
Right? If you just do that consistently, you will get the results faster.
Well, and I think what the complete opposite of that, regardless if you're a CEO, president of a company, or you're a top-end salesperson, the problem is that, one, you are already scripted in your own scripting. You just don't know that, right? But if you can't actually mechanically understand that it's a script, you never know when you can change something. So if you hear a great way that President Obama says something or whatever, like, where do you install that in your business?
Exactly.
You have no way to do it because you never think about it naturally. So I like the scripts because when you hear something better, you can swap it out, you can change it. And the power of the script is not in your delivery, the power of the script is in your organization and preparation. And that's the cool part.
And just to add to that, improving your script, one of the things that I love to do, I kind of am an infomercial geek. And so like
amazing.
The infomercials, they spend lots and lots of money designing scripts that are designed to convert people in a short amount of time by just running. And like the nuggets that they spit out and the lines in those infomercials are unbelievable. And by taking those nuggets and putting them in your presentations, in your cold calling scripts, in your advertising, it moves the needle in a big way.
So let's give them a script, right? So here's I've been on 248 listing appointments in the last 24 months. We've won 96% of them, over $1 billion in listings taken. And in every single appointment, I use this same frame and script every single time. Right, and someone tells me every single time, you should pay a little bit of attention to that.
This is a good time to get a notepad.
Right, so the interesting part is this. Most clients, most consumers, most homeowners have no idea of how their home fits in the overall market. So I always say, Mr. and Mrs. Client, there are 131 million housing units in the United States. There's 13.3 million housing units here in California. I say that all for a reason. So you frame that, right? I say that all. Right here in Orange County, we have 987,000 housing units.
Wow, that's a lot, right?
Yeah. And then you say, here in Laguna Beach, or here in this community, here in Windsor, we have 432 homes, of which 19 are active. Active just means that they're on the market for sale. So do the definition. 12 are under contract, and 24 have sold. Out of the 24 that sold, 2 hit a record price. Would you like me to show you how we can make yours the next record price?
Oof, that's good.
Right? You do that. I don't change it at all.
Right.
It's the same thing, macro to micro.
Yep.
So you've done the macro. Now they say how their home fits in the overall marketplace. Now they see how you get the record. Now, whatever you say, would you like me to show you? Then you say, here's my 7-step process. Your 7-step process is automatically connected to get them getting that. Doesn't matter who comes after you, you have won.
And there's a 0% chance they're saying no to that question.
Correct, of course, yeah. And it also frames you as a data expert without having to memorize a lot of data points.
Right.
I only know 3, and then I just change that at the end. The funny part is there's no other way to frame pricing. So a lot of times, well, Oliver, what do you think my home is worth? Or what do you think? Anytime you get into an economics conversation, if you can't frame, anchor, macro, and come down to micro, it's very hard for you to show expertise. So you always do that, and that gives you a good, then you can say anything you want after, and good things happen.
So you start with U.S., state, city name.
City, county, and then that neighborhood.
And then whatever sold.
Yeah. The key is always saying 23 sold, 2 hit a record price.
Right.
Can I show you my 7-step plan to get you to be the next record price?
Right.
Can I show you how you can become the 3rd record price? Because that's what they want.
Right.
And you can't, and don't promise them the world. Don't say I want to make you number 1. You just say I want to get you in that upper echelon.
Yeah.
Now the comps become easier, the framing becomes easier. You can say, hey, we should list this strategy, a little bit of below market. You could start to, now they need your advice, and it's not their choice of pricing anymore.
That's good tips, and it really positions you as an expert, right? Because no other agents are saying that when they walk in there.
Right.
And just being able to use the big data and the small local data in combination, and then presenting your solution as the answer.
Well, the one last thought around that is everybody believes that when you talk numbers, you need to show numbers. That's a big fallacy, right? Okay. When you talk numbers, you don't need to show numbers. When you talk numbers, you just need to establish authority and show path, show story, show formula. No one's asking you for evidence. People are just asking you for a path to get to what they want.
I love
right?
that.
That's all that is.
Yeah.
And so here's what most people do. Just take real estate folks, for example. They'll walk into an appointment. They'll hand you what we call comps or comparative market analysis or how other homes have sold in the neighborhood. What do clients do? They go to that and they start flipping the pages. And then the 3rd page, they're like, oh, my kitchen is better than that. What is this? And now you're flipping. It is a very
And now you have to defend. Now you're on defense.
It's a very clumsy experience. And so now you're having to show evidence. Instead, if you do the macro to micro frame and then lay out a plan, now you're just promising the plan. And the plan gets very exciting. If they ask you a question and you can answer it with the comp, that's cool. But don't let the comp drive the pricing conversation. So everybody relies on that, and it's the messiest possible process. Because I've never seen a comp conversation go well, ever, ever.
Right.
Because they don't agree with us, right?
Yeah, no, they never agree.
Yeah.
What comes after that?
After Goldman, so the amazing story happened. So we are investment bankers, so we help companies sell, et cetera. And one of my partner today, the same partner, we've been investing in a lot of companies. And we just happened to invest in this real estate company passively called Telus Properties. We had 35 agents, 1 office in Beverly Hills, California, roughly selling $300 million worth of real estate. So for Beverly Hills market, it's not bad. You sell 4 homes.
Right.
But it was a small operation, and we had invested in this company. And one of the principals actually called us in and said, hey, the original partners are not they're all fractured on the new vision for the company. So we love your guidance as investors. So we came in to help them settle their scores and get on the right path because we were invested in it. But we realized at that point that they were not getting along and it was going to fracture the company.
Right.
So I thought there was a lot of potential. And so I actually resigned from my investment banking job and moved out to Beverly Hills, California, and with the belief that we can build an amazing company.
Wow.
And so we had 35.
That's a strong move.
Yeah. All the mechanics were in place. We were just getting out of the crisis. It was 2010. It felt like there was a whole 10 innings ahead of us.
Yeah.
And so I came on, we cleaned out the balance sheet, bought out the partners who didn't want to be there, and we went from one office, 35 agents, and $300 million in sales to 22 offices, 600 agents, $3.5 billion in sales. So we grew 10x in 5 years.
My man.
Yeah.
No, I love that. I'm curious, what was it initially that attracted you to them as an investment, from an investment banking standpoint?
Yeah, great question. So I didn't do any diligence in this investment at all. My partner's broker, friend, and agent was the principal broker. So we invested out of pure trust in my partner's relationship for 40 years. It was it was almost like, your principal broker asking someone and then they writing a check. We had no sense of it whatsoever. We were just real estate investors. I didn't know nothing about the brokerage business.
Wow.
I'd never talked to a client. I'd never talked to an agent.
So this person just presented the opportunity, and because of your trust in them, you moved forward.
Yeah, we just made a passive investment.
So then you came in there. There were some struggles happening.
Yeah.
What did you do after you cleaned up the balance sheet? What was your growth strategy?
Yeah, so we realized, I'll never forget this day. So I went back to New York to clean up everything at Goldman and all of that. And I went back to New York and I went into the Starbucks. It was a month into running Telus and I had no idea how to do anything. We were losing money. We were not getting growth. I thought I was all of this in a bag of chips. I remember going to the Starbucks, ordering a black tea lemonade. I sat in the corner on 63rd and 3rd in New York, and I bawled my eyes out. I cried my eyes out because I had no idea what I was doing.
Wow.
I had no clue.
So this is overwhelm setting in.
Complete overwhelm, and I didn't even understand the business. I didn't know what it meant. I didn't know that we got paid when I had no idea. And when you have no idea, I like to say this often, is transformations don't happen in isolation. Like, there's no way. Transformations do not happen in isolation. You can't get yourself out of a tough position by yourself, because if you could have, you would have never gotten there in the first place. So I called one of my mentors. He lives in New York. He was a great mentor for me for the last 10 years. And I said, hey, can you talk to me about this stuff? And Oliver, so I walk into his house. He sits there in his, leather seat in his
chair
office, in his king chair.
Yeah.
And he says, yeah, we do all these questions. He's like, so Sharran, what business are you in? And I said, well, we're in the business of selling real estate. He goes, let me ask you again, what business are you in? I said, we're in the business of selling real estate. He goes, I haven't heard you selling real estate ever. Do you have to wake up tomorrow and go out and sell real estate tomorrow? I said, no. Then he's like, well, you're not in the business of selling real estate. What business are you in? And I said, I don't know. He goes, you're in the business of hiring amazing people and giving them an awesome environment to sell real estate. Your job is not to sell real estate. He goes, you're thinking about how to sell more homes. In fact, you should think about how to build an amazing agent culture and give them a lot of tools and services and a platform so they can go be successful. And as a result, you're successful. He's like, so the business that you're really in is hiring people to sell real estate. And I stopped. I was like, I'm good. I love you. Hug. I'm like, I don't want to talk anymore. I'm out. Because now I realize that it was not my job. It's not my job to go sell more homes. It's not my job to fix the balance sheet. It is my job to go out and find amazing people so that I can give them a platform so they can go create an amazing lifestyle for themselves. So we changed from a real estate company to a human capital company, right? Like, we became a place where we attracted people. We don't need to attract property. So if you go on a real estate company's website, and this is across the board, what do you see? Look at our homes for sale.
Yep.
Nobody goes there. Like, what you should see is person. people. You're not selling homes, you're selling, the advice and the perspective around that.
Right.
As a company owner, broker, that's our job. As soon as I realized that, I said the strategy for our growth is going to come from recruiting and recruiting great people and building a great platform, and not just figuring out how we can sell more homes. And that shift was the shift that I really needed.
Wow, and that's a huge shift in thinking, because you're thinking like, and I think a lot of brokers think this. We talk about this a lot, me and Sam. People think that they're in the business of selling real estate, right? And ultimately, if you're running a brokerage, your agents are really the ones that are in charge of selling the real estate.
Agree.
Your job is to support them,
100%.
provide training, provide accountability, provide the systems for them to plug in and go out and succeed at a high level.
Yeah.
And that's a big shift in thinking, because now you're thinking a lot less about how many units are we selling, how many, what price points, what's the volume, this and that. And now you're thinking more about like, how am I getting good talent? How am I retaining good talent?
Right.
What perks am I offering? What's our company culture like?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So there's this, for everybody, recruiting is the answer, you can say that, but there's a lot of thought that goes into that, right? You guys are very thoughtful about it. So I sat down, and after like 6 months learning the business, this applies to any company anywhere, but it definitely applies to what we do, is I said, what are the reasons why people join us? Like, nobody asks that question, right? What are the reasons why people join us? And there are 3 broad reasons. Number 1, they join them because of you. I love Oliver. Oliver's been great to me. I'm connected to Oliver. Oliver will always do right by me. They join because of you. Number 2, they join because of the model, the platform, the services, the benefits that you offer as a company. That's number 2. It's essentially a model. And number 3, they join because they identify, because for identity reasons. I need to be with them because they are my people. The identity decision is super important. So if you break it all down, flip it now. When do they leave? They leave when they find another model. As soon as they find another model, they're gone, right?
Right.
It's a little harder to leave Oliver. They're like, I can't do it now. I can't do it at Christmas. I can't do it at Father's Day. And they stay with you because they feel a connection to you. The first reason why people leave, and when real estate companies tell me, I have an amazing model, I go, yeah, you're going to be able to recruit, and they're going to switch like that.
Yep.
The second is, so the model is the first reason why people come. People also leave. The second is they come because of you, but when they come because of their identity, and they're connected to who you are, the mission that you stand for, etc., they never want to leave, because they have to leave, their identity changes. And how often is that, right? And when we changed it and we started recruiting people to our identity, we didn't have to do what people call retention. We didn't have to do retention because they were already connected.
That's great.
So there's no retention anymore. So our entire process, we said we may recruit fewer people, but when they come in the right identity, you never have to call them, you never have to take them to lunch, you don't have to do all that, because they believe what you believe. And that's why I said, if we can find people in there, we call them Telus DNA, Big Block DNA.
Telus DNA.
Yeah, if they're Telus DNA, it gets very exciting.
So tell me more about that identity, right? Like, what is that? Is that what you would say is how you were recruiting top talent? And what was that identity for you guys? And how did you create it?
Yeah, so great question. So let's talk about how we created it. We looked at, in the last 18 months, because we've only been around 18 months, 24 months, we looked at the last 18 months and we saw who came in and who's done amazingly well and who embodies the Telus DNA. And we saw there was this amazing kid named Andy, and we said if everybody was like Andy, that was just a model for us. And then we went and said, well, what is Andy like?
What makes Andy Andy?
So I went on Google, I typed Andy, I picked the first picture, that's Andy. Who is Andy? What does he drive? How old is he? What are his fears? What does he believe in? What are his aspirations? You just write. And then when you actually meet Oliver, you're like, oh my gosh, Oliver's like an Andy. And then it becomes really easy. So you don't have to go crowdsource what all your partners think and what your managers think. You don't have to do any of that. Don't do that, because you have self-bias in there. Oh, I don't want to say this, I don't want to say that, But when you just go find a person that is already embodying that identity, just deconstruct that, and now you're building an army, but what does the military do? They're like, Oliver is a badass, let me go find more Oliver, right? Because they know that works. And we just deconstructed a model DNA, and we just said, what's the model? And we just matched the person to the model.
I love it. So you basically just went out, just to kind of put a bow on this, you looked at your entire team who you had already, found the person that was like the ideal Telus person, got very clear on what made that person that person, and then went out and tried to just focus on finding more of that.
Yeah. Actually, in our recruiting calls, we would ask our managers, the first question you would ask is she Telus DNA? Like, I don't care whether she does. People always say
how much she sells.
No, oh, she's a top producer. Not like we're not even got to the conversation. Is she Telus DNA? Yes, awesome. Let's do whatever it takes to make that happen, because I had this delusion that if we built the company like that, you would get, over and over time, you'd get to the perfect DNA. You almost be like the Borg. You get to the perfect DNA because you have people. That's why when we had our acquisition, we had very few people, what they believed in, ever leave. People left, they just had a disconnect with the identity. But otherwise they never left because they believed in the mission. So once you get that, you never have to do retention ever again, because now they're your peeps.
Now they're your peeps. I like that. So tell me a little bit about, because one thing I noticed early on about Telus, because we obviously watch all the other brokers and what's happening, is you guys were really good at like recruiting top talent.
Yeah.
Like when you came into San Diego, you guys pulled a bunch of big names, and like you didn't really get a lot of agents, but the agents that you got were very high quality, very committed to the business, very call it Telus DNA, right? But what was it that attracted them to you? Like, what was the Telus different?
My entire pitch was one thing, and if you notice, it was not the agents that were big agents, it was where they were located. So what we decided was, what I would tell people is, my goal is to build a pearl necklace. I want to start in Carmel, and I want to get pearls all the way along the coast, all the way down to Coronado. And I want a big team in each market so I can just service the entire coast. And so my job was to sell the dream of the pearl necklace. So I would walk into a marketplace, a Ruth or whoever, I'd be like, you guys are a dominant team here. You're going to be the pearl of my necklace down here. And I'd build everything around you. So I would actually go in and I would build something for them, right? And then it would get very, very exciting. So it's all about the pearl necklace.
Crazy. And was that strategy based on those just being the high value properties near the coast, or what was the thought there?
We had a good blend of both unit driven volume and sales volume, but I just wanted Telus DNA teams that when you move a team over, you help set them up, they build a new identity with you, they want to invest in that process. Like, that team is still there. Right? So for me, it was more about, is the team have a commitment, or those agents have a commitment to that marketplace? Can I make them the pearl in that marketplace? And can I invest in them? Can there be a daisy chain, a daisy pearl of referrals across the board?
Okay.
We didn't want to be the number one agency in Newport Beach, because I didn't want agents tripping over each other.
Right.
I'd much rather have agents across the board, because we can sell in different marketplaces.
I love that. Tell me about how you were able to go into those markets and poach those big teams. What was it about you and the company that kind of drew them?
Yes, I'll give you the recruiting pitch. It was very simple. We realized that when an agent joins the business, wherever you are, if you're a real estate agent, if you are a sales professional, entrepreneur, you want two things. The reason why you don't want to work a 9-to-5 job, and that's totally cool, I like that too, is you want uncapped income potential. You're just like, hey, no one's going to tell me what I make this year. And so you want uncapped income potential, and you also want full control over your time. Well, there's a problem there. Most people don't believe that. They think they can do nothing for work and make a lot of money. Like, that doesn't. We all know that doesn't. It's a recipe for disaster. That doesn't happen, right? So I thought, I have to do something that impacts one of these two things. I either need to increase revenues, or I need to decrease costs. I need to increase joy with giving them more time, or I need to reduce stress by giving them more. So it's either increase revenues, decrease costs, increase joy, reduce stress. And I was like, I don't know if I can increase their revenues, because that's not under my control. I don't know if I can decrease their costs, maybe with some splits. I think I can increase their joy, give them more time back. I think I can reduce their stress if I give them more time back. So I said, hey, if we can build a model which would give them people time back, that would be amazing. So our pitch was this. Hey, Oliver, if you sell 7 or more listings a year, the Telus platform saves you 1 day a week. What would you do with an extra 52 days a year?
I love that.
That was the only pitch. There was nothing else, because what we did is we built systems that allowed big agents with big teams and big business to process their business faster, so it would save them 20% of time, which was 1 day a week. So now when you take that back, they're like, oh my gosh, I can have more time with my family. I can go prospect more. I can sell more. I can do more. Now it gets more exciting. So that was we had one singular pitch, and we built the entire company around that.
That's really amazing and really smooth. I mean, like, so the pillars are increase revenue, decrease costs, increase joy, decrease stress.
That's it.
And the decrease stress was the one that you guys decided to focus on.
Correct.
And how did you execute on decreasing stress?
So we realized that a lot of times what agents would do is they all had either they had or didn't have their own checklists in this process, right? And we said, wouldn't it be amazing if the agent didn't need to be involved, if we could just do it all? So hey, when I take a listing, these 19 things happen. Okay, great. What if we just did it and did it at scale, because we have to do the same thing for everybody? So let's just do that. And so we took all the pieces of the process out that were that didn't need agent involvement, and we just systematized that. And once you systematize it, you can have technology do it, you can have workflows do it, you can have people in the Philippines do it. It doesn't matter as long as you manage it well. And everything came down to we operationalize success. That's what we say. We always say we got to operationalize success.
That's very cool. And that was your whole pitch to getting these agents is, I'm going to give you one extra day per week.
That's it. Because now what most companies, most brokerages, most agencies, most any company, what they want to do is they say, hey, Oliver, come work for us. Here are the 10 amazing things we do.
Right.
You start getting recruited. But, hey, Oliver, we're adding 3 more. Now we do these 13 amazing things. Now you and me and Sam are like, how do we add more stuff to this? Right. Now we add more. They're not using any of these anyway. Now it's like a comparison of like the size of the list, right?
Right.
And so you don't have a way to know whether you're waking up in the morning and delivering on a promise. And so I always tell people it's not about how you scale.
That's good.
Right? It's not about how you scale. So think about this. It is not about how you scale. It is about how you scale your promise. So when someone asks me, how do you scale your business? It's how do you scale your promise? And that's when, like, what was the whole, hey, in Domino's, if you don't deliver it in 15 minutes or whatever, your pizza's free. Right. They had to scale that, which meant they had to have good drivers. They had to, like, that's what they fixed, right? They didn't have to fix their pizza. They had to fix their delivery. So they scaled the promise.
The systems, the operations,
right?
All that.
So it's not about how you scale your business. How do you scale your promise?
I love the clarity behind that too. And then to your point, like there's an accountability in delivering on that promise.
Right, totally.
Which is perfect. So both sides know exactly what's happening and it's very transparent. So then you built Telus up to quite a large, Thank you, Michelle, for the extra beer because we were getting a little low.
I'm going to chug this.
Yeah. Okay. Back to you built Telus to quite a large company, right? And then at what point was it that you either decided to sell or knew it was time to sell, or were you just approached?
Yeah.
Or tell me about how that went down.
So the one thing that I recommend to entrepreneurs all the time is people talk about right place, right time, right? And so I always tell them, hey, it's very hard to do that. It's very hard to get right place in your business at the right time. So I always say, hey, get to the right place all the time, and the right time will just happen. Mm-hmm. So the faster we can just get to the right place and just stay there as long as possible. It's like, I just need to get to that mountaintop. I'm going to wait here. That sun will rise. The right time will happen. You can't time, but if you're in the right time happens in the wrong place, it gets messy. So what we used to do, so from my investment banking background, I suggested that we go to market and pretend in a very good faith way that we're going to sell the business every year. So every year we ran a process to sell our business. Every year we did it softly because I wanted to know what our business was worth. And most importantly, I wanted to know, no company will tell you, oh, your business is worth $3. They will say your business is worth $3 only, and let me tell you why, because that's their ego.
Yeah.
And I said, great, bring it on. Tell me why. Oh, you don't have this. You only have 13 offices. If you had 15, we'd pay you more. So I'd go back and say, well, they told us if we had 15 offices and 18 agents and we got these splits, they'd pay us a lot more. Great. Hey, team, we should build that.
That's great.
That became the goals for next year.
That's amazing.
So every year.
What a great strategy.
Dude, it's super easy, right?
Yeah.
Every year we did so I know when the market was starting to change, I knew when it was getting to the point where we would get good value, but while the Douglas Elliman deals, details are confidential, it was a right place. We were at the right place. They found us at the right time. They wanted California operations. They wanted our footprint. They lit up our entire footprint overnight. They could not have built it. It would have taken them 10 plus years to build that. Mm-hmm. And they had a great brand. They had the resources. And they said, hey, how do we turn on a little Douglas Elliman in California? And I think we were kind of almost a match made in heaven for them because it was the perfect footprint, perfect
kind of Douglas Elliman DNA.
Yeah. You know, it was a good model match. And so they were able to integrate and do that very quickly. And they had 22 office presence right away, which they didn't have to build.
So every year you were going out,
Yeah.
shopping the business as if it was for sale,
Yeah.
even though maybe it was, maybe it wasn't. Then, based on the feedback you received on what could make it worth more,
Yeah.
that became your goals for the next year.
Yeah.
So you deconstructed how to get maximum value,
Yeah.
and then went and did that and built it for maximum value.
Yeah. One analyst in a big company we were looking at was very kind in the process. We had gone to them 3 times. I've become friends through this process. They were like, oh, here comes Sharran again. But they would just refresh their numbers, refresh their process. And he would always say, hey, it's amazing. Like, you guys always hit the numbers that we want you to hit. And I said, how do you know that? He's like, well, it's in my model. I said, well, can I see it? He's like, well, and as a good faith gesture, he gave me a portion of the model. He gave me a screenshot of the model that we had to reverse engineer. So me and my COO, we reverse engineered the acquisition model. And we said, this is what we need to build to.
Wow, that's great.
So that we got, again, right place and the right time happens.
So then, did they seek you out, or was this at one of your annual, shopping sprees?
No. No, so Douglas Elliman connected with us.
So they contacted you.
They contacted us. We did
they were interested in
Then we went through the process, exactly.
something could happen.
It was over 18 months. It was an 12 months to 18 month deal from the first conversation. They were actively looking, and my partners and I were it was tough, right? So for anybody that ever, I'll give you acquisition advice, right? I've had 3 deals, so three exits. And every time you go through an acquisition, a couple of things happen. First, you always start thinking about how amazing it's going to be when it's done. Like, that's a very hard feeling. I would bring it back to the present, because the current job right now is to grow the business, because that's what they're interested in. The second thing, what we did is we've separated our team. We said there's going to be an acquisition team and a business growth team. Because the one thing that companies hate when they buy you is during the time they're buying you, you're flat and you don't grow. They're like, oh, you took your eye off the ball and the business didn't work.
You let your foot off the gas.
So what happened for us is when we separated it, we were still pushing hard, growing, and we also felt like we had more options. And they were like, oh my gosh, even though these guys are doing the deal, they're growing during the time we're doing the deal. This is amazing. So the 2 things I would tell you is bring your focus back to the present and split your team so one team works the deal and one team works the growth. Because having growth during acquisition talks
That's great advice.
Oh, it's amazing.
And it gets them just salivating more over closing the deal, because they're like, man, we've really got to close this to get in on the action.
Yeah, I think we grew more during the deal period, because at that point it also gives you confidence that, oh my gosh, I can do this, I can grow more, I can be more, I can give more, even though I'm semi-distracted on the other side.
That's great. It took about 18 months.
Yeah.
I want to talk about this whole deal, because I think a lot of people that listen to this have businesses that are exitable. So, so they approached you, and you kind of thought there might be something there. What were the terms of the deal? I know you can't disclose numbers or whatever, but what were the terms? Yeah,
so I'll give you the high level. Let's actually back up. So a lot of people are probably wondering, hey, how does a company get valued? How do you actually, what is the offer that's made, et cetera, right? Instead of thinking about valuation, I will actually say, because the value that you bring is how the buyer looks at the deal. So to me and you, buying a business for $72 million may be a steal. To them, it may be like, well, you're using a wrong multiple. To you and me, it's only worth $72 million, because when we integrate it into our operations, we can't get more synergies out of it. So I'd like to tell people, take out the multiple number, take out the formula, because the world has changed. People have no problem coming in and saying, I'm happy to pay $32 million for your business. You may think it's worth $132, but this is what I'm willing to pay, because this is the value it adds to me post-acquisition. So the thing I realized, Oliver, was I think about more pieces to the deal. So the pieces generally are, hey, do you get cash or stock? Very simple. Cash or stock, right? And if they're a publicly traded company, you get stock. If they're privately traded, hey, I get some big block stock, you get some Teles stock, right? So cash or stock. The stock is more illiquid. So generally when you get stock, you get more stock than par. If you're getting it cash, you can generally get a little less, because you get that value up front. The second piece of the puzzle is you get some form of earnout. You say, hey, you can't just walk away tomorrow, Oliver, you got to stick around, or your business needs to look as healthy with us. What am I going to give you over time? Because that is my insurance policy for it not happening, right? That's number 2. And the third is, what all these bonuses. Hey, we just call them milestones or something formulaic. Hey, if you hit $3 billion in sales, you get another clip. If you hit that, we give you this.
This is after the deal closes.
After the deal closes, generally after the deal closes. So most deals will always have some form of an upfront payment, either cash or stock, some form of a what we call a earnout or formulaic payment, and some kind of a milestone.
Okay.
And so our deal was structured exactly that way. We had all three parts to the puzzle.
That's great.
And then it became a question of, hey, you pick this number. It's going to be $100. How much of the $100 do I get up front? How much do I get during the 3-5 year period? How much do I get if I hit certain milestones? And then you try to figure out on your team if you're willing to take that deal.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Makes perfect sense.
Yeah, and a lot of people think that, oh yeah, I can go out and someone will just pay me this. Well, it doesn't work that way anymore.
Yeah.
Because the biggest thing, like, why do people buy companies? Very simple reason. They either, it's called build or buy. If I can't build it, I'm going to go buy it. But if I can build it in 2 years, I don't need you. So what am I willing to pay for you? The cost it would take me to build it in 2 years.
Right.
So for most buyers of companies, the cost they're willing to pay is replacement cost. And if your replacement cost is that good, you should at least get that. So it's easy for me to walk into my negotiating table and saying, hey, we have 22 offices, 650 agents, do the math. Like, how long would it take you to build that? 10 years and X price. Great.
I'll wait.
Yeah, this is not hard math, right? 10 years and X price, awesome.
Yeah.
Say you are more amazing than we are, you can do it in 5. Say you can, and nothing happens to the economy, you still have to run your current business by then. What is that number? Cut that in half. I still win.
Right.
Right? And so that's when you know you've created a lot of value in the business.
So that value then, tell me about how that translates in terms of like an earnout. Because like I think a lot of people, I don't know if fear is the right word, but when they sell their company, they're maybe worried about like having to stay on as an employee afterwards.
Yeah.
And tell me how that was for you and what you would say to that.
Yeah, so listen, there is, my wife always says this, if you wanted to run the company, you shouldn't have sold it, right? So I'll tell you that right now. Somebody paid you for your company, say thank you, be deeply kind and grateful, do whatever the contracts ask for, and service the deal like your life depended on it, because it is your responsibility to your culture, your shareholders, that you committed to doing that.
That you can smoothly pass the baton, right?
Correct.
It'd be terrible if you built a company, passed it off, and it ran, they ran it in the ground.
Totally. And so the is not having the say difficult for you? It should be. It was for me. Like, I was not the boss, right? Like I couldn't. It was less about being the boss. It was more about I couldn't just have an idea and just do it.
Right.
That was really hard. Like, I had to
run it up the chain.
I had to run it by a couple of people. They're publicly traded, so it's not on brand. I'm a director. They're like, what did Sharran say? Is it going to affect the stock price? I get it. I get all of that. Yeah. At that point is when you realize, hey, you know what? I'm willing to do this. What we did was I talked to the team and I was like, hey, what are my parameters? Like, what can and can't I do? Awesome. If I can do this, then I'll do that. And at the point in which I feel like I can't do this anymore, then maybe time for a change. And that's what we agree.
So you work that stuff out in advance?
Correct. You should work it out in advance because people have different expectations, right? The buyer is going to come in and say, Sam, Oliver, I bought your company. You're my slave. I expect you to do whatever I say. But you can't do that. You're caging the beast when you do that, right? So if you negotiate that up front and say, hey, can we write I call it a mutual expectations document. Can you write saying, hey, still have the right to send out emails. I still have the right to accounting documents. I still have the right to, my car allowance. I'm just coming up with stuff.
Right.
But if you don't write that, now you're sucked into the parent company's
how they do it,
right. And you have no say in it unless you can say, we already pre-agreed upon this. I would say the hardest and most complex discussions happened for us negotiating that.
Right.
Because we were not in New York, in California.
And that's when you're in the nitty-gritty, right? I like that. Ooh, I don't know about that.
Correct.
Right.
Correct.
And so how long did you have to stay on before the deal was finally done and you passed it on?
Yeah, so I stayed on. They chose to rebrand the company right away. Sometimes some companies like to do it that way, sometimes some don't. We chose to rebrand it right away, so we rebranded all 22 offices in 90 days. And that
to Douglas Elliman.
To Douglas Elliman. Okay. I took a heavy role in that because I wanted to make sure when the rebrand happened, all our agents were supported through the process. So I stayed 6.5 months, ensured that the rebrand was complete, my transition was complete to a new COO, And that was when I left.
And that was when you left.
Yeah.
That's great. How did you celebrate when you closed that deal?
You know, the interesting part is, I'll give you this one story. This was a good one. I haven't told anybody this. So we don't partake in a lot of fun festivities. This is like it's a once a year thing. So I'm glad to hang out and do this with you. My CEO and I, we've been working this deal. We get together with our spouses and we go to this restaurant to celebrate closing the deal. And my CEO looks at me, he's like, here's the drink menu. I said, I don't drink. He goes, just today. So I said, okay, I'll have the first one on the drink. He goes, I'll have the first one too. There's probably 18 drinks on the menu. Well, we ordered the first one and I said, great. And I'm already feeling terrible. Then my partner said, oh, we'll have the second one on the menu. And I said, I don't even know what the second one is. He goes, it's fine, you don't drink anyway. Then he said, we'll have the third one on the menu. And I said, you at least got to choose. He goes, no, we're already in order
running
now.
down the list.
So he took a magic marker and he started scratching out. He
I
goes,
love it.
we have 13 more to go.
I love it.
We didn't even get through half the menu. We got kicked out of the restaurant because neither of us do that.
Just having too much fun.
But we had 3 goals in the transaction. It was about, do we take care of the agents? Do we take care of our staff? Do we take care of our shareholders? So me and my partner had the sticky. And anytime, I will tell you, the deal fell apart at least 100 times. I'm not joking, at least 100 times. The deal fell apart at least one. When I say fell apart, it was shy of them saying, just telling us to bug off and us saying that. It was done. Like, it was reply all saying, no, we're not moving forward. 100 times.
Wow.
Right? And it's very normal, because I've done 3 of these, very normal. And so we would always go back to, hey, we talked about making sure our agents have a good place to go, making sure all our staff have jobs that they wanted, and making sure our shareholders have an insane return.
Yeah.
Right? And so we always would go back to, does it solve all 3?
Check the boxes.
Okay, awesome. Let's just stay in the game. Let's be kind. Let's be supportive. And anytime it was out of integrity with those 3, that's when you could actually throw up a fight. But till then, we stayed with those 3. So you should always have when you're going through something tough, hey, I want to buy this house. I want to buy this beach house in Carlsbad. Awesome, that's there. These 3 things. Hey, I won't give anything less than this. I won't give these terms. As long as within those 3, you can stay in the game. It gives you you plan tomorrow today, right? And then you stay with the process.
One of the things too that Roland Frazier shared with us, that
great interview.
You know him, was just getting really clear on the what you want but is negotiable, and then what they want. Right? And then making sure that you're approaching that deal with all of those things, right? These are my must-haves. These would be great to have, but I could give up. And then these are their must-haves.
Totally.
And then working those angles and to try to put the deal together.
And it's funny how many things are such easy gives. Such easy gives.
Right.
We acquired a company recently of a CEO that I mentor, and the only thing that person wanted was insurance for their cousin, because he's not part of the family and couldn't get it. And he said that to me over drinks. We were the only people that offered. It was nothing. It was nothing.
Yeah, it's so easy for you.
We bought a company for the price we wanted because we offered, we paid
to give the cousin insurance.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah, and so sometimes you just have to kind of have that conversation, and that's where rapport is. You just have to ask for it. Yeah. Hey, if you had to put everything aside, what 3 things do you want? Even, let's say we don't buy this company. Hey, you either like the deal or not, but if you don't like it, tell me what 3 deals, and they'll tell you.
Yeah.
And my favorite question is, hey, let's say we agreed on all terms of money. What is something that is not in the money terms? And you'd be shocked as to how many things that are not in the money terms. I'll tell you a very important thing, is title. I've had C deals blown up because people couldn't agree on the title of the incoming CEO.
Oh my God. That's so easy to fix too.
But
right?
no, they don't talk about it.
Yeah.
And sometimes you have a bigger company that can't give you the title because of rationale,
or
hierarchy.
Someone else already has that title,
exactly.
Right? Yeah.
I've seen deals break because of that.
So that comes down to just asking in advance.
Yeah.
And hey, what are the non-money related things that are really important to you in this deal?
Yeah, and you can say, hey, I'm not asking you to show your cards. That's always I say, hey, I'm not asking you to show your cards.
Right.
But if we could work out anything that is non-monetarily related, what would that be? And then generally what you do is you always offer first. For example, hey, my company's health insurance is on this. I hope to at least have it for 6 more months so I can find my own. Would that be okay with you? I always say, would that be okay with you? So that they're like, oh my gosh, she's asking for permission and he's so respectful before he does the deal. How cool is he going to be when he's our employee?
Yeah.
And now you've offered something there, and they'll say, well, hey, all company members have company cars. You're like, done, can I get an I-8? Like, that's when the good stuff starts to happen. But we never ask because we assume it's all money related.
I love that. That's great tips. So dig into the nitty gritty, ask the right questions, find out what's really important to them, and then sell based on those things.
Yeah.
And then be clear on the things that you're willing to give up as well, because if it's not that important, you just let them have their way. They feel like they got to win, and everybody moves forward.
The one exercise that we did was probably our pivotal exercise in the whole thing was me and my COO, we sat in a room and we said, if we were, in a very good faith way, if we were our buyer, if we were Douglas Elliman and we were buying our company right now, the transaction has closed, everything is done, what would we do and what would we be excited about?
Great question.
Right, and so now you're like, okay, if I would move these people, I would put those people, I would change this, I would market this way, I would say our new thing is this. And so we come up with all the things that would be amazing. And as you have discussions, you can seed those things.
Yep.
Because you're like, hey, wouldn't it be amazing when we're sitting here a year from now and we were the #1 independent in the country?
Hot button.
Yeah, but you acquired us and you became the #1 independent in the country.
Yep.
Well, that's pretty cool. That's an added benefit that you never thought of.
Totally.
So now the PR guy is thinking, oh, wouldn't this be amazing that we could actually sell this story? Wouldn't this be amazing that in the living room when my agents walk in, they can say, hey, we're the #1 independently owned brand in the country? But they never think about those things at all. So we just sat there and we made this list. And you get excited about it for them.
Right.
And then you know it's a good deal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And to your point, like you can pre-frame those things now, right? Like you're adding them into their conversation and just giving them clarity on closing the deal easy. Thank you for that. It's a great story. So I wanna kind of pivot now because you are an awesome entrepreneur, right? And I want to ask you some kind of like tactical / operational questions. So in your mind, like what is the job of a leader, or what is it that a good leader should be focused on every day?
I think the job of a leader is to do 2 things. And well, I like to focus on just doing these 2 things. Number 1 is to be so far ahead, thinking about a bigger and better future. Our job is to consistently and constantly be focused on thinking about a bigger and better future, because when you and I are focused on thinking about a bigger and better future every day, we come to work energized, excited. Today's problem does not bother me right now. I know that this will go away and I can create something else. I'm open to opportunity. When you think about a bigger and better future, it takes away all pain of the present. So that's number 1. So I want to wake up and be like, what can be?
That's great.
Because nobody else, like my CEO wakes up and makes sure that the trains are running on time. That's my CEO's job, right? My director of design wakes up and makes sure that everything looks good. Okay, my director of ops wakes up and makes sure that all the bills are paid. My engineers wake up and make sure that this product works.
And everything
well,
works.
Sharran wakes up and does what?
Yeah.
Thinks about how great this can be. Like,
So
that's
let me
the
ask
job.
you this. Let me ask you this. From a tactical standpoint, are you talking about a year out, 10 years out?
Yeah.
What does that look like to you?
A great question. So I think it's more than 3 years is too far. Like I can't see that far. Okay. So I do a 3-1-30. So my 3-1-30 is essentially, hey, in 3 years, I'd love to have 100,000 members paying us X dollars a month. In 1 year, I want to hit this big goal. And the next 30, 60, 90, what do I get? 90 is a very good period for us. Even for the CEOs I mentor, I always talk about the 90-day, kind of the 90-day march.
Sprint or whatever.
Yeah, and 90 days is long enough where you can actually accomplish something powerful, but short enough that you can actually see it and experience it, right?
Right.
I'll give you a cool story. 4 years ago, we hired a very expensive coach. And me and my partner, and we brought on a 3rd junior partner in our fund, and we did a planning session. So we built a 25-year plan. And to the point where we were like, we're going to be X number of a value of the size of our portfolio in 25 years. This is the personal lifestyle that we want.
Right.
And the theory was 25 years, each year has 4 quarters. So there's 100 quarters. So in every quarter, you have to make 1% progress.
That's a great way to look at it.
Right? And so we built this plan, and selling Telus was a big part of that plan. And so we've gotten a little kind of resting on our laurels with that, but we hit the plan. And so every quarter, if we miss something, we're only 1% behind. If we hit something, we only know we have that 1% goal. So we have a couple of goals about acquiring a certain number of rental units. And it's been very easy because it's like, hey, you write this many offers, you get this, but then at the end of the quarter, you hit that goal. We're like, we hit the 1% goal and we're on the plan. So, and the reason we did the 25-year goal was that one of my 50-50 partner, he's 63. And my other partner, who's younger than us, he's 27. So we have very different lifestyles. And so what one person's risk appetite is very different from the others.
Right.
So you needed a artifact, a document to dial everything forward. That's why we needed that. So if you have a partnership and you don't have, I hate to call it an operating agreement, but more standards, like partnership standards, it's gonna break. Because you and Sam have a great relationship, but I guarantee you the relationship is trumping the friction right now because there's probably some things that irritate both of you. It's very normal.
Right.
But there are partners out there that have just gotten together in the last 2-3 years and they wonder. And when you have two people start to band together and they're like, oh my gosh, Oliver's terrible. And it's really, really toxic for the partnership. So that's why having an artifact like a plan or a 90-day plan, et cetera, is very good. So tactically, if all of you are not playing from the same playbook, it's a little messy.
So that was number one, is the big vision.
Yeah.
Number two,
and
what leaders should focus on?
Number two is, I think, to me, is all about the word cadence. It's, I think a lot of times what we believe is, oh yeah, I'm going to come into the office, I'm going to talk about how amazing this company is going to be, and then I'm going to go back in my shell and my video calls, my podcast, and then never talk to you again. I think cadence is so important. When I say cadence, for example, in our company on Sunday nights, Monday mornings, I write one email to the entire company. That's my weekly kickoff. On Friday, my partner writes a weekly top 10 recap, recapping that week's goals. And in the middle, on Wednesday afternoons, we do what we call a culture call, where someone from the company leads a video call, and teaches something. So they get to teach something that's very personal to them, that they love. So what we do is you connect 3 times a week that way, and we do a daily huddle every single day of the week at 9:30 to 9:45. So everyone, the entire company is on a video chat, but it's very fast, very quick. That cadence keeps your culture, keeps your focus, and nothing's ever off. You can course correct very easily. It's not like, oh, Sharran showed up again 3 months later. It's Sharran showed up every single morning for us. And so as long as you keep thinking about a big future and as long as you execute cadence today, like those are the two things.
I think that's great advice. And I love the idea. So 3 times a week, once on Sunday, that's you writing it to the whole team, weekly kickoff. End of the week, your partner writes it. It's a recap of the week. Wednesday, your team lead a call on what? That I'm really curious about that one because what are they teaching on?
So good.
And
great
how
question.
do you structure that?
So every week, one person owns the call and they have full control over this video call. Recently, we did a book review. So a person just said, hey, here was a book that I really loved. It impacted me this way. She came on the call. She talked about the book for a few minutes. And then she opened up the call and she went person by person till time ran out and said what each one had thought about the book. And we learned, it was very cool. Like, people that wanted to share. One of our team members decided to live the complete nomadic remote lifestyle. And he's been in like 17 countries in the last 25 days.
Very cool.
And what he did was he talked about the last 7 countries and what he'd learned. Every time something is super important to that person, they get a chance to come out and share it. One of our teammates, she turned into this minimalist revolution. So she just got rid of everything in her house, and she's given us a tour. There was nothing there. And so now we start to realize why they think that way in our interactions with them at work, because their emails are cleaner, they say fewer things, and you get to connect with your team at a much deeper level.
I love
because
that.
Once you get the team together, right? No team member, like we lead the calls all the time. We get on, we kick it off, we set the agenda. Now I get on, I'm like, hey Michelle, thank you so much for leading the call today. Click, I'm out. It's Michelle now, and now she gets to do that, and she gets to have the influence. And there's a little bit of ownership deposited into the company.
Right.
And the more ownership that our team can have, that's when good things happen. So now you have people saying, okay, I believe in this big vision. Oh, I own a piece of this today. I believe in this big vision. I own a piece of this today.
That's great.
And small things like that can have a lot of impact.
That's very cool, man. That's really good advice on things that people can focus on. One other thing that's a big challenge for a lot of entrepreneurs is tracking to-dos, and then not only that, but like holding people accountable, like when you assign them things. So what advice do you have around around attacking
Yep.
those types of things?
So the interesting part, so I went from, so I'll tell you the average entrepreneur's to-do list that nobody agrees to, right? So let's actually call it out. You wake up in the morning and just assume your to-do list is empty, which is never the case, by the way.
Right.
So let's say you put 15 things on the list. You go through and you have an amazing day and you crush those 15, but suddenly at 6 p.m. that night, there's 41 things on that list. Yeah. Why? Because it keeps getting added. That's who we are. We want to do more, be more, create more,
for sure.
do more, right? And we don't have the discipline to knock off those 15 and then start. We don't have that. So the problem is, as you do that, you are out of integrity with yourself to be able to deliver on what you said you were going to do. So when someone tells me I'm going to get your spreadsheet done, and then the next day they say, oh, I'm still working on it. No, I don't care that you messed the deliverable with me. You messed the deliverable with yourself, and there's a daisy chain of that happens in your life. So the reason why entrepreneurs get overwhelmed is because they lose integrity with themselves on the things that they said they were going to put on their to-do list and get done. And if you can just fix that right now, right? Just fix that right now, and there's an easy way to fix it. You can keep a capture mind dump list, but I don't do a to-do list anymore.
Okay.
If it does not have a place on your calendar, it's not going to get done.
I like that.
It's very simple. It's very hard to do, by the way.
Yeah.
Right? So you're saying, hey, we're going to record this podcast. We're going to record this interview. If there was no place for it on the calendar and it was just a to-do, it's been a to-do for us for the last year, but as soon as it got a place on the calendar, it became real, this is an artifact, and you know that you're committed to that. And if you had to do a project, you also stop yelling, the delusion of time. So we'll do things like call the dentist, work on presentation. I'm sorry, like call the dentist and work on presentation have the same 2 lines on a to-do list, but they have completely different size blocks on a calendar, right?
That makes
sense. So when we don't have the velocity, like the size of the task on a to-do list, like we don't get to say this is a small, medium, or large. We don't do that. We just write a list. And when you look at 14 things, you get overwhelmed.
Yeah, and if one of the things on your list takes 6 months to complete, it's going to be on your list a long time.
Exactly right. And then you keep transferring it to the next day, and then you're out of integrity with yourself, right? And so I say if it's not on your calendar, it'll never get done. So big projects, what I do is I divide the project into 10 chunks, and I just say, project for Oliver, 1 out of 10, 2 out of 10, 3 out of 10, 4 out of 10, 5 out of 10. If I get done early, I can cut it up, but at least now I know that I have 9 more blocks to get this done.
I love it.
So at least it's on the calendar, right? So that just being committed to yourself is super important. My COO calls it, from an accountability perspective, we call it the say-do ratio. I say I'm going to get this done. I say I'm going to get 4 things done. I got 3 things done. And 75%, I failed. We want our say-do ratio to be 100%. I say I'm going to get 4 things done. I do 4 things.
I love the say-do ratio.
That's all that is.
Yeah.
And it's just, he's like, hey, let's not overthink whether you delivered or not, whether you met a deadline or not. It's the say-do ratio. That's all it is. You said you were going to get done by Friday at noon. It's not done by Friday at noon. You screwed up. I have the right to call you out.
Right.
Everybody has the right to call you out. And all the rule that we have is, hey, if you're not going to get it done, you have to give us at least 24 hours notice because it's uncool otherwise.
I like that.
Right? And so now
that's good accountability.
Yeah, that's all it is. But when we get to the say-do ratio, everyone is like, my say-do ratio is off today, right? And I think that's what gets people in line.
So take your to-do list and put it on your calendar, is what I'm hearing.
Yeah, choose what's on your list, give it a space on your calendar.
And if it's a bigger project, break it into chunks and put it on your calendar.
Yeah, I love doing 1 out of 10, 2 out of 10, 3 out of 10. So now you know you have 10 hours dedicated for this project and it's off your to-do list.
Right.
So when the time comes, you're just committed that you're going to get it done because you set some time to do it. Also, we have this weird issue with deleting things from our calendar. Like that's not a normal thing we do. The average person doesn't delete things on their calendar. We just put things on, which is okay. So I've noticed that when you put something on your calendar, you may just move it, but you're probably not going to delete it.
Right.
So moving it at least moves it back into a certain time space, as opposed to down your to-do list, which will never get done.
Yeah.
So I don't mind rescheduling, but
that
stays on the list.
That's great advice. And one thing I really like about your approach to things is that you tend to look at things really simply and break them down in a very simple fashion. And you're really good at building systems around things in a simple manner. Yeah. So walk me through like your approach to systematizing things.
Yeah. So there's this amazing, you know this person, he's amazing. His name is Dean Jackson.
Yep.
The marketing Buddha. I love Dean Jackson. If you're not following Dean, you should think about him. Dean talks about it this way. He calls it the moo method, right? He's like, if you're a cow, your only job is to make the milk.
Right.
You should not be milking the cow. You should not be transporting the milk. You should not be making it butter or cheese. You should not. He goes, and as early entrepreneurs, yeah, we may have to do all of those things, but at some point, if you don't have a vision for not stopping to do those things, you will always end up doing those things. And I don't mean like delegate. I just mean knowing truly what you are good at and how the company will fail without you, right? So for me, the simplest thing is, does it give me super amount of joy doing it?
Okay.
If it
The joy test.
joy, yeah, and I say, and it's like, is it really easy? Do I have to remember a bunch of steps? No, I can't. People are like 4 steps. No, I'm like 1. If I have to call Oliver, I press this button. Awesome. Like if I can do that, this is very good. And we spend a lot of our time like thinking about how to make a decision. I just want to kind of make one and move on. And so I try to make it super, super, super simple. The other way is I have a couple of really, really, really lazy friends. And I always think, if I gave this job to a really lazy friend, like how would they hack it and get it done? Yeah. Lazy people are amazing at finding the smartest, the shortcuts. And they'll get it done, and they'll get it done right. And when you can start thinking that way, it's pretty amazing. So there's I have a CEO who runs a $27 million company in California. He asked me, he's like, how do you create so much content? And I said to him, well, let me give you the reason behind this. Is your content, I asked him, I said, Robert, is your content worth to you $612? He goes, what do you mean $600? I'm like, is your content worth $612 a month? He's like, you mean should I hire a person? I'm like, no. I'm just gonna assume that you drive a car that has a $612 monthly payment. Is your content worth at least your car payment? He goes, what are you talking about? I said, if your content is not even worth your car payment, then you should be producing nothing.
Ooh, I love that.
Like, stop it. Stop it, right? Your content is not even worth your car payment, which is why we're like, oh, I need to post more on Facebook today. No, you don't. No, you don't. You don't.
Right.
Everyone is like, be everywhere, do everything. It's really easy. I'm like, no, you have no commitment to the cadence of you delivering content. You have no commitment. Grant Cardone, 17 email messages a day and you still don't unsubscribe. But you think when you send an email to your clients 2 times a week, you think they'll unsubscribe.
Right.
I don't understand that. That's weird to me, right? Why? Because we say, hey, my content is so much more valuable than my car payment. Now I'm going to go actually hire somebody. The best part when someone asks me, how do you keep something really simple? Hire somebody. Because what will happen when you hire somebody is that you'll realize pretty quickly a few things. Number 1, oh my gosh, I'm not an amateur anymore. Now I'm a pro.
Right.
Because this person is there to support me.
Right.
Like number 2, oh my gosh, I have no more excuses, so I can't do mediocre stuff anymore. I have to up my game. Oh my gosh, I can't hyper control the process. Oh, funny, I have more time.
Yeah.
Right? Oh my gosh, I actually enjoy this because I'm not doing the things that I'm not good at. So suddenly by hiring somebody, you turn pro. And turning pro is the hardest thing for people because they're like, they want to overcomplicate it and they say, oh, how do I do this? What app do I use? What caption do I use? Do I put a link into ManyChat? Like, no, you can't learn all that. There's no way. You can't even record a video. Like, when are you gonna go like figure out how to hack in ManyChat? Like, you're never gonna do it. Right. And then 3 years go by and then the platform goes away and you've lost all your chance to create impact. So to me, it's just like, is something worth your car payment? If it's not, like, don't do it.
Don't do it.
Drive around in your car.
And that just reminded me of another point. I just interviewed Greg Reed. He made a similar point, and I asked him, hey, how do you write a great book? Because he's written 78 books in 50 languages. And he was like, my best tip is don't write it.
Yeah.
He was like, hire a ghostwriter who's a professional at writing books and just share with them the ideas, give them the what you want in it, the how you want it to look, and let them add like the descriptive language and the grammar and the everything and make it look very readable and present it in a professional manner.
There's an amazing book, by the way. I generally don't recommend a lot of books because everyone's very individual in how they think about the world. There's an amazing book. It was written by this guy who's a friend of ours. His name is Cameron Herold. Yep. And he wrote a book called Vivid Vision, I think. And so he describes in his book, there's no mission statement, vision statement, values. He just describes a story like The Sound of Music. There's this beautiful meadow. We're sitting there. He describes exactly what he sees. And then everybody's enrolled in that identity of that vision. So my coach always tells me, she goes, Sharran, it's your job to turn on the camera or record on your phone and like deeply describe in vivid detail what you want. And then other people get joy of doing what they do really well to support you. And she's like, the day you can describe what you really want with insane detail is the day amazing things start happening for you. So dude, that's when I was like, down to the color of the wall, to what you want to eat for breakfast, to how you want like your signature to anything. If you can describe that, people around you are like, oh my gosh, I can create that vision, and that's their joy, right? And so I think we as leaders need to really think about how we communicate what's in our head, and we're in the future. Dude, you and I are thinking about what's going to happen 3 years from now, and we can't communicate that to the person in front of us, and they're like, Oliver, what are you talking about? I don't understand anything you're saying. And that's why they call us like ADD. They call us like he's distracted. He's not dependable. He doesn't follow up. No, you just don't connect with my vision. Right. And I think it's our responsibility.
And so the solution there is the vivid details.
Yeah.
And sharing that in great detail so that people can connect with it.
Yeah, I'd say, I want this party, and I see tablecloths, like burgundy tablecloths. Like tell them exactly, right? And then you'll find the event planner be like, Oliver, I'm so sorry, I couldn't get burgundy, but does crimson work? Like, that's what's gonna happen, and that's when your life really, really lights up.
I love that, and I wanna shift gears, I wanna shift back to real estate, and I know that you have your finger on the pulse of what's happening, and you are the type of guy that's always looking way out in the future, so I'm curious as to what your thoughts are on like, where the industry is going and what like the next big things are in real estate.
I think that, first, let's talk about kind of the role of the agent, because I think the role of the agent is very central to us, what we do, and the agent experience in one of a pretty complex transaction. So to me, I believe that the role of the agent is going to go more towards a private banker, where they have the deep relationship with the client. They have, I don't think it's about a salesperson anymore. It's almost a relationship manager right below, where you get to be the counselor, the advisor, you share perspective, but you have a deep bench of resources that you bring people in. So yes, I still work with you, I still talk to you, but you say, oh yeah, you need a contractor, I'm gonna call Jimmy. Oh yeah, you need an appraiser, I'm gonna call Sally. And then you become the real point person. And now you may ask, well, how is it different from what I do right now? Well, what the difference is, the entire job is a relationship, and not the transaction. Not you're a straight up quarterback. You just call a play and you pass. You call a play and you pass. That's all you do, and you get paid a little less for that, but you can handle so much more, and you can be in your joy a lot more. And everybody that is working in the transaction is a specialist. The reason why we get kind of a bad name sometimes is because an agent who's going in the business, and no fault of their own, is like, hey, I've done 3 deals. I need to do marketing on this property. I don't have any money, so I'm going to do it on Microsoft Word. And it's not their fault. They just don't have the resources, right? But it's a disservice to the client. Now, you're the relationship manager. You say, hey, we're going to call a marketing company, and they're just going to do the job. Yeah, they may be cookie cutter, but you get to marshal the resources of everything that's necessary. So even if there's state regulations, national regulations, iBuyer, it doesn't matter. You get to be the relationship for a large asset. Because they still kind of need that. And
I also think that that's a big opportunity to plug into different profit centers, right?
Totally.
Because there's a lot of things that you can get in on an affiliate relationship or a profit sharing, or even starting your own company like home staging or marketing, right? Or drone videos that you can now sell to other agents along with getting discounts on your own stuff.
Yeah, and people don't understand. I think the problem is, even if you go through an online portal, like even when someone asked me this question, so I was, we do a third of our business is in Australia and New Zealand. So in Australia and New Zealand, when I go down, the people are like, hey, explain iBuyer to me. And is it gonna work? And I was like, well, I don't know. I think so, but here's the interesting part. Have you bought a book on Amazon? You go to Amazon, you search for the book pops up, you click yes, you go to the next page, you say click, this is the option that I want, I'm gonna choose this. It drops you into a form, you fill out the form, like you fill the shipping address, you check a couple of boxes, you do the CAPTCHA, like you haven't even bought a book yet. Like, let's be real. It's taken like 4 minutes to buy a book. Sure, you have one-touch ordering after that, but it takes a while to do that. We're talking about a home, an asset that's worth sometimes 1 million times more. And at least several $100,000 times more. And how many pieces of the process are there? The client is paying for the insurance policy of having somebody know that process really well, that they can talk to, they can interface with, and that person will actually have the human touch to guide them through that process. So anytime someone tells me, hey, is this going to, I'm just like, listen, it takes like 14 clicks to buy a book. You think someone's going to buy a home in 4? Like, I don't think so.
Right.
But is it going to happen? Is the models coming? Yes. So I think, number one, agents are going to become kind of these relationship managers, private bankers of sorts. I'd be shocked if the banks didn't get into the space, the private wealth guys. The second thing I truly believe is that you're going to have a small portion of the market become institutional buyers. And because they just have the capital, they'll find the spreads. And I think that's just a valid source.
Yeah.
The one thing that I think what I'd love to see in the US market that is actually there in other parts of the world is I'd love to see non-distressed auction.
Ooh, auction, okay.
Yeah, non-distressed auction, because I think for us in the US, when we say auction, we instantly go to courthouse steps, REO, etc. But in Australia and New Zealand, for example, right now, most of the properties are sold via auction. They're sold at the banging of the gavel.
Oh, interesting.
And it's the most, if you think about it, what we do is we do auction anyway. We list a property, we get a bunch of offers, we bid the offers up, and we take the highest offer.
Yeah.
That is auction. Like, that's all it is. It's just asynchronous.
A cleaner system,
it's
right?
It's just asynchronous, right? It's not made live. But if you have an auction and you say, we have 24 people in the room, everyone's here, everyone's going to make an offer, the seller will actually make more money because you have the live auction capabilities. And I would love to see a non-distressed auction, because even the stock market right now is an auction. A bunch of people want to buy the stocks, a bunch of people want to sell it. It finds the right price. Non-distressed auction can do one. I don't know if I think there's a lot of baggage behind that word, but there's parts of the developed world, Australia, New Zealand right now, that are selling homes on auction thousands per day.
That's great.
And getting higher price for sellers, which is super interesting.
And how does that work? There's like a period of time where they market it, and then a set time and date for the auction.
That's it. And then
everyone who's interested shows up that day.
And you buy it. You buy. It's just like an auction at Christie's or Sotheby's.
That's great.
Yeah. So I really think that there's going to be institutionals are going to come in, agents are going to become the bankers. I'm super curious. Like, for example, I'm super curious about buyer agency. If I were a betting man, I would wager that buyer agency is going to go away. Because agency is one of the most pure things that we have. We actually represent a buyer. But the world has shown, Australia, New Zealand, parts of Asia, there is no buyer agency. A listing agent is the deal. And it's very interesting if you ask today, if you and I were to get into real estate today, what would we do? We knew nothing. We would go be on a team. The team would send us some buyer leads. We would open the door for a buyer and we would say, would you like to write an offer?
Right.
We'd say, sign here, talk to my loan officer. No negotiation. I never have to talk about price. I have to negotiate, but if I'm stuck, I talk to my broker. The buyer agent's job is a lot easier than the listing agent. We have court cases right now that are challenging buyer agency. So what may happen, I don't know. NAR is a huge lobbying body, but there is a significant amount of, money there.
I'm curious to see what happens with all that and the whole lawsuit thing. I think there's a lot of fear around the iBuyer thing, which I personally don't understand, because from my perspective, if I'm an agent, I'm just going to go out and partner with 3 local flippers.
Exactly right.
And now all of a sudden I'm offering the same iBuyer service as every other iBuyer that's out there. And you just say, you give the owner 3 options, right? We can either list it for retail. I can get you an all cash offer in 24 hours. And the best part about that is most of the time those flippers that you work with, they'll usually relist the property with you.
Correct.
So you get a double commission.
Totally.
And you get a nice property to market after they're done flipping it.
So I'll tell you what happened. For folks that don't believe this, I was in a conversation. A team in New York State, in a high-end part of New York, called me, and they had a listing on the market. It was a celebrity's home, so it was priced at $9.1 million. It's been on the market 6 months, had not sold. Local market iBuyers, people who had come together and made an institutional offer on that home for $7.9 million, right? So that consumer calls this agent and says, hey, I think I'm going to go with the iBuyer. And the agent calls me, he's like, Sharran, you need to save this listing for me. And I don't do this. And I said, hey, well, let's take this call. And she says, okay, I'm going to put you on. I'm like, right now? Like, you're talking to the client right now? You got to give me a little bit more time.
Like, so we're doing this?
We got on video, and I presented something what you presented. I said, listen, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, you got an offer for $7.9 million. That's offer number 1. Now we have another option. We can take your home private market. That's option number 2. We can run that for 30 days because there's a celebrity appeal to this home.
Right.
Option number 3, we can do a 60-day on market, and the list price that we would come into would be the iBuyer price that you already got.
Yeah, exactly.
Because the market's already validated. And number 4, I said I actually use auctions for 2 situations in the US. 1, it's either distressed, or 2, it has unique value.
Oh,
Yours
I like
has unique
that.
value, and I said we can also go the auction route, and now the reserve price becomes the iBuyer price.
Love it.
So I said, regardless,
You have nothing to lose.
Nothing to lose,
Right.
and if you can manage 60 to 90 days, worst case scenario, you can take the iBuyer offer. So we got the listing back, and then now
That's
she's in
good.
process, right?
That's
The
real
interesting
good.
part is the average agent wants to now tell people why the iBuyer is a bad option.
Right.
As opposed to just inserting the other options that you have as a part of the process.
So you saved that deal.
Oh, dude, you know, she got 6 more months.
And what does it sell for?
Say it hasn't sold yet. 6
Okay,
more months.
So it's in process.
Yeah, 6 more
So we'll
months.
follow up on that.
Yeah.
I love your approach to the listing process, and I know one thing you're famous for is your listing presentation.
Yeah.
And why don't you give me the 30,000 foot view on why your listing presentation is so effective?
So the how all this happened was when I got into the business originally, I'd never talked to a client. And I realized that if I was going to help agents and support them in their business and they are in the living room a lot, I should be at least supportive in that process. So I started going on appointments with agents. So after we went on the first 161 appointments, I realized that we had something. So what we had done was before every appointment, we actually prepared, which is a novel concept, by the way. Like most
Right.
people don't even want
Yeah.
to do that. And after every appointment, what I did, I got in the car and into my phone, I just rattled every question that a seller had asked us. So I had 161 appointments worth of questions. So I said, there's got to be a pattern here in some way. So I took the 161 questions, I categorized them on the whiteboard, I just put it all up, and I found there were roughly 10, 11 topics in chunks that
Reoccurring themes.
the themes
Okay.
that the clients asked for. We took all our listing materials and we threw them out. You know, the people will say, oh, you need to come in with a big leather book and you need a thud factor. Like, you only stressing the client out,
Yeah.
right? And so we took away all of that and we actually built a 10-page book. And the 10-page book, it didn't matter whether you have the book or not, it's the story behind it. And we synchronized a flow that actually built people up through those 10 questions. That was the pathway of emotions. And with that, we won my second half, we won 84 out of 84 listings just doing that process. And now
100%.
100% success rate. Now I believe right now if you use that process, you will win every single time because it's just engineered to hit every emotional state. If you have a shot at getting it, you're gonna get it.
Yeah.
And it gets pretty exciting when you can do that.
So you went on these 161 appointments. You found all the objections that you were getting, and like a statistician, you kind of found the 10 most common things, and then deconstructed your listing presentation to handle those in advance.
Right.
Or script out the objections.
Both.
Or,
Yeah.
Okay.
So you would do what would you do before, what would you do during, and what would you do after? So let's bring it to life, right?
Let's bring it to life.
So a lot of times people will say, the one question, there's 3 questions that generally, in some way, shape, or form, agents get asked about. How are you going to market my home? What do you think it's worth, and what you're going to list it at, and what do I pay you? What's the fee? Generally, those 3 will come up in an
Right.
appointment.
How much does it cost?
If it's a
Exactly.
real appointment,
Yeah.
right? The fee will generally come last because people are too politically correct to bring it up first. Most people are nice. They don't want to start asking about what the price is before you tell them what you're going to do, generally speaking. So the average question the client will always ask would be something like this. So let's say you listed, like, what's your marketing? Why is it better than the other person?
Tell me what you're going to do to sell
Tell
this
me what
home.
you're going to do to
Right.
sell it, etc. And most people will say, well, let me do that. They'll start saying, we do this, we do that, we do this. We put it on 132 websites. You know, we bring all these marketing material. And now you've just flooded the client with what they think. The problem is what they're asking is not, how are you going to market my home? That's not what they're asking. That's the question they ask, but that's not what they're asking. What they're asking is, who is going to buy my home? They're asking who, and then they're asking how you're going to reach that person. So what you should say is, Mr. and Mrs. Client, it is not about our marketing, it's about who you're going to market to. Who are you going to market to? Let's talk about like the ideal buyer. Now you take it away from the marketing and you say, and my favorite question is this, so Oliver, why did you buy this home 13 years ago. And I know you're going to be kind of irritated at me for asking that. I'll actually say that, but there's a reason, and I will tell you that in just 1 second. And then you say, okay, there's a reason. You say, well, I bought it because of this. It was the right price point. I drove by it. And now you start describing to me a buyer's viewpoint on the home that you had 13 years ago. I start to tell you now whether those correlate or don't, and that becomes who I start to market to. Now you can say, so I think the right person to buy a home like this is so-and-so criteria, works here, lives here, likes to surf, loves this, like I walk through, now I have an avatar of this person. Now, you say, now-
That you're building in real time at the appointment.
So the best part is this, let's just say something happens and the home doesn't sell. I want to tell my client, Mrs. Klein, do you believe that the avatar that we built together was the right one? So now it's not about me not delivering on the marketing, it's about us not agreeing upon the right avatar. So it's much easier to ask for the price reduction. It's much easier to ask for the listing being kind of renewed. So now you can say, well, Oliver, now that we've figured out that this person looks like this, now let me walk you through our marketing plan to reach that person. Now it's not like we do. It is we do this to reach that. We do this to reach that. We do this to reach that. And you have to be very good at your craft when that happens, right? But once you get good at that, the client will go back and think, oh yeah, Jimmy said this and Johnny said this, but like Sharran and Oliver, they had this plan to reach our version of ourselves 13 years ago. And that's when they get emotionally tied to you.
And involving them in that creation process.
And so think about it, this is just one part of the 10-part process, right? So once you've done that, everything stacks on it.
That's great.
And that's just like an introductory example. But if you can nail that down, it changes everything completely.
And where can people find more on your listing presentation? Because I know you've done this in detail.
Yeah.
So if someone wanted to learn that presentation, which I highly, highly recommend people do, where can they find that?
So there's only 2 places to find that.
Okay.
Place number 1 is in very elite mastermind groups like Closing Table that you and your partner run. I have shared things that I've never shared anywhere else in that. And we have some amazing success stories there. So you can get a complete behind the scenes at Closing Table.
Love it.
Or you can go to our company, Kingston Lane, kingstonlane.com, and there are bits and pieces of it, but how we run it is we run it through our mastermind program. So ours is not in person, ours is virtual, and thousands of people around the world, and we break down exactly how we do things. Those are the only 2 places you can learn about the actual process.
And how do they get involved with that second one that you just mentioned?
So Kingston Lane is kingstonlane.com. We are a push-button marketing platform for real estate around the world. We have tens of thousands of agents across the world in 12 countries, and our job is to give agents tools to make a ton of money.
So it's very top secret. It doesn't sound like we're going to get a whole lot out of that. So why don't we do this? Why don't you give me one more golden nugget from the listing process?
Yeah, so let's talk about pricing.
Love it.
So it's not about price, it's about pricing. And most people have never explained pricing in the living room because they always are like, oh my gosh, what if I tell Oliver that his home is worth 7.2 million, but he thinks it's worth 9, I'm gonna lose this listing right away. So price means nothing, it's all about pricing. Price is like, is it list price? Is it sales price? Is it contract? What is it? I don't know. Right. So when you talk about pricing, there's 2 things that you always need to know. You got to discover and you got to disassociate. Let me tell you what that means. You got to do whatever it takes as fast as possible to ask as many questions as possible to find a way for them to give you something related to price, something related to what they're thinking in the range. If you don't have that, you're going to be totally out of the ballpark. And people are like, well, Sharran, tell me what that is, right? So I'll give you a very example. The easiest way to talk about pricing is to always anchor in the data. So you say, Mr. and Mrs. Client, I actually went out and printed out the title property profile, or it can be public record or whatever. And it looks like you bought this home 13 years ago for $612,000. Is that right? Awesome. And then now there's an anchor.
Oh, I like that.
There's an anchor, right? And you can say, hey, and I instantly go to the other extreme. And in this neighborhood, in the last 7 years, the highest priced home that is sold, do you know what it is? I actually had to look it up. It's 1.3 million. So now you've hit the bottom end and the top end automatically.
Love that.
So now you're done. Now you just have to finish up, figure out where they are in the range. Then I go to the next question, which is I call it the sinner winner. Say, Mr. and Mrs. Klein, let's just say, I know you're moving to Idaho right after this. Let's say we launch our marketing tomorrow. Beautiful things happen. We go on the market in 14 days. We get the offer that you want at a price that you want, at the terms that you want. and in 37 days, you get in that new Tesla you bought, Model X, details, right? And you're driving to Idaho, and you have a big smile on your face. What number is on that contract?
Oh, that's a slick way to get them to give a number.
Right? And so now they're like, well, most of the time you'll get something. So then they'll say, if they kind of push back, you're like, all I'm asking is I want a happy day and a happy number. What's a happy day and a happy number? Now, they can't go above 1-3 because that would make them look like a jerk.
Right.
So they'll say, Sharran, if you can get me 1-1, this is a great day. So now I know that 1-1, I'm a winner.
Right.
And you say, all right, Oliver, now I got to ask you the tough question. At what price do we not have a deal?
Ooh, that's a good.
Right?
So now you're finding their top and bottom.
Right. So now that's called the sinner. Hey, below that, the sinner price, don't even bring it to me because I'm going to get offended. Right? So now I have the range of the 631 from the public record buy and the highest price sold. I have the winner price and I have the sinner price. Now I have discovered. Now whatever I do in between, I can get excited with. But most people will say, they'll dance around, they'll say, well, what do you think it's worth? Have you been into open houses? Well, they don't want to do that. They're looking to you, right? Yeah. And they'll say something like this. Well, Oliver, you're the expert, you tell me. Or some version of that, right? And the agents have a really difficult time with that answer because they're like, oh my gosh, I'm on the spot now. You're the expert, you tell me is a half-assed compliment. Take it. Say, oh yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. And then you laugh and you say, and then you just go right back to the question. Give them the same question again. People hate getting the same question again because they don't want to get the same answer again. Because if they give you the same answer again, they have to compliment you again, and that will be crappy. So just ask them the same question again, right? So when you discover where they are, at least you're in the ballpark.
Yes.
Pricing. Disassociation is the key to everything. And I will tell you this one thing alone will change your listing career forever. This one thing alone, right?
Listen up.
I say, Mr. and Mrs. Klein, the list price is an invitation. Mr. and Mrs. Klein, the list price is an invitation.
That's a great line.
Right? Now they know that, hey, if I listed my home at $4 million, like I'm not inviting anybody.
Right. No one's coming to that party.
No. An amazing agent in Santa Monica, Ellen Conrad, taught me that. She's like, she walked in, we did an appointment together. She said, Mr. and Mrs. Klein, the list price, don't be attached to it.
It's just an invitation.
It's just an invitation. And I was like, this is amazing because now what it does for them is it disassociates what they're listed for and what they're going to get. So the key, you have won if you can say, hey, what if I listed your home for $1? You've disassociated the price, right? And that's super, super exciting. So always discover, use the winner sinner questions, and always disassociate with the whole, the list price is an invitation. And then now you're in complete control. Now, when you're doing pricing, you're only talking about the invitation.
That's great.
And it becomes very easy after that. So I actually go into deeper as to how you do that.
That's amazing insight on pricing properties, and I love it. The winner and the sinner, I love that, because then you'll find their range, and then you kind of repackage the data to present and kind of find that invitation price.
I know a lot of agents will be like, well, Sharran, my clients are not like that. They're much harder. They won't give it to me, et cetera. And I will tell you, I'll give you two answers to that. So if you're the person who's a doubter, who's a hater, who's just doesn't want to do the winner sinner right now, that's totally cool.
Haters, listen up.
But here's the deal. I know you're gonna everybody wants every potential answer, and I'll give you every potential answer. Now you can, if you have rapport, you can play a game. So the game is this. I play the game if I have rapport. The rapport is, hey Oliver, so I'm gonna play a game. Are you cool playing a game with me?
I love it. Let's play.
So now I got this right. So Oliver, there's going to be two variables. It's gonna be price and how long it's gonna take to sell. You pick a number and I'll give you the other number, right? So for example, if you say, say it's a $1 million, so if you say 14 million, I'm going to say 322 years, right? So now you just you break the ice. So
great,
what's your number? And you say, well, you may say 2 million. I'll say 19 months. And then if you flip it, you say 4 days. And I say 982,000. Right. We play the game and then, and I say, keep playing,
that's
right?
Super good.
But you need rapport for that.
Yeah.
I saw an agent, very, very smart, Andy Stavros in Newport Beach. What he did was, the client wouldn't let him off the hook. And these are all life stories. He takes his pen, he pulled out a business card, he writes the number, he puts it in his pocket. He says, I really don't want to affect the possibility of how much you can get for your home. So I have it right here. Why don't you pick a number? Well, let's see if this matches.
Ooh,
But that was rehearsed.
That was slick. Yeah.
That was rehearsed. That's how you do it, right? And so what are they going to say? They have to give you a number. You've committed with the number. That's okay. You can see. Now it's a possibility. right? So the interesting part, everyone feels like they need to like get their way in. Sometimes, 10% of the time, 15%, they're not gonna give. You have to pick a number. But my offer to you would be, never pick a number. Never pick a number. And you may say, oh, Sharran, that's lying. You can't give them a range. I'm like, yes, you can give them a range. You can't just say the property is worth 900 to 1.1 because they know that. What you can say is, Mr. and Mrs. Client, here's what we do. There are pricing strategies that we use to pick the right price. Let me give you an example. If I brought a buyer to the property today, the perceived value, not the fair market value, because the fair market value is not established until the property closes. So agents that use fair market value use bad terminology. Okay. The perceived value is roughly $1 million. However, if we priced the home at $950,000, we would call that event pricing, and it would create an auction-like environment. We would get more offers, and it would be my job to drive that price up. If you have the more traditional sense, you would price it at 1.1 million, a little over asking. We call that aspirational pricing, and you would leave some room to negotiate.
Aspirational pricing, that's money.
Yeah, you would leave some room to negotiate. Which one of those connects with you the most?
Oh, that's good.
Right, so now you still give them the range, but you actually explain the pricing associated with the range, and now you frame it around that. And so like, if you tell them 900 to 1.1, they already know that.
Right.
And when you tell them that, you actually lose credibility in the process. And I think that's where, like, you do small things like that with a client, and the client's like, "Well, Sharran's super smart." I'm like, "I'm not. I just structured this really well."
And I love what you said about like gamifying the process.
Yeah, totally.
Right? Like making it a game. Like, okay, let's go back and forth. Okay, I'm going to give you the time period, and you're going to give me the price, or vice versa, and we'll play the game until we land on what makes sense for you as the seller in terms of what price you want versus how long you're willing to wait.
Totally. And the interesting part is this: the what most agents have is one way to describe pricing. And their way, they'll just bring out a CMA or they'll just talk about comps, right? Like, I can do 8 different ways. And so based on what they're feeling, I can say, oh, Mr. and Mrs. Client, the pricing actually is one of 3 ways. And this is, as an agent, you have nuances related to the property. As an appraiser, you have nuances related to the community. And as a contractor, you have nuances related to quality of construction. Let's actually blend those 3 values. So the client's like, wait, that's awesome, right? Yeah. So I can go, if you are not getting through, you should be able to go like 8 levels deep on how you explain pricing. That's why we get good. And I just didn't make this up overnight. This is very practiced, right? Like, I know you can't beat me. I don't mean that, you just can't. I'm too good because I'm so deep in this stuff, right? And so it's not that we practice, like it just comes out natural. I can do this all day, but because it's a practice and you know the language patterns and you've
systematized it,
totally,
right? Like, you know the objections, you've planned for the objections in advance, and that allows you to win the game at a high level.
Yeah, totally right.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Love that advice on pricing. So I have one more agent-related question, and then I want to get into what you're doing now with Kingston Lane, because I think it's super awesome. This is a question from Carrie Scholl. She's in also our Closing Table Mastermind, so shout out to Carrie. She runs a large team, and her question was, how do you systematize training to help your agents increase their conversions?
Yeah, I love this. This is one of my favorite questions. So first, we all have to believe that we can get better with training. Like, if you don't believe that you can get better with training, if you don't believe that there is a better opportunity out there, you're leaving an insane amount of money on the table. Like, I will tell you, Oliver and I are part of a lot of mastermind groups. We sit in the back with our hoodies on, taking notes, because we know that we can take good ideas and implement in our business, right? There's one way to train, and this is the only way I believe, and the way you train is through role play. Right? Okay. The role play way is the way to train, and if you do it every day, you win more. And when I say every day, I mean you're role playing 5 minutes a day. Everybody gets in the morning, it's 9 a.m. to 9 to 5 a.m. Partner up. We're talking about, hey, somebody just answered the phone and they want to see the listing that you have an open house on. Go. Okay. And then you just go. And you just go. And you're like, okay, that was better, now you do it. That was better, you do it. That way when the call comes, you've done it 14 times. When you do 30, 60, 90, 120 minutes of training, it gets very tiring and it doesn't register. So doing one question or one topic a day every single day of the week is super important. So I would say theory, practice, role play, mastery. That's how it works. Learn, that's theory. Practice, and I will tell you, all of us should be practicing in the car. If sales is your jam, So me and my wife leave home at the same time every day, and sometimes she'll follow me around, and I'm in the car driving, and I'm just like doing the script, and my wife looks at me, my kids' windows are rolled down, and they're laughing, and they don't realize that I'm better every day because I practice every day.
Right.
Theory, I understand it. Practice, I practice it. Role play, that's when it comes to life, and when you have it, that's when mastery comes. Mastery is like on demand. I can do 7 levels of pricing, but everyone thinks that it's theory, mastery.
Right.
Right? Like there is no practice, no role play.
Yeah.
And role play is when it makes it super real.
That's when you internalize it.
Everything. Yeah. Everything happens when role play. Like suddenly you just go to, and you have to go into role play. And the more comfortable you get doing role play, something pretty amazing happens. There's a Navy SEAL quote, which is my favorite. You'll love this. It's that you don't rise to the occasion, you default to your training.
Ooh.
You don't rise to the occasion, you default to your training. So if you can crush it in the role play in the office, I guarantee you will handle the pricing objection just fine.
Because it'll just come out naturally.
Just fine. Yeah, and you'll just like instantly go. That's why I go, I generally say Mr. and Mrs. client, only because I know I can flip the client, right? Mm-hmm. So even when I answer something to you, I do it in role play form because it forces me to get in that into state. Mm-hmm. And so theory, practice, role play, mastery.
I love that you said role play. I think role play is hugely important. I also think that when people hear the word role play, they kind of take it to like a hokey place and or they don't know how to do it.
Yeah.
So how would you recommend actually facilitating that?
Yeah. So I'll give you a fun story and then we'll go to something live. So nobody knows this. So we're doing a lot of firsts on your show.
So you heard it here first.
Nobody knows this. This was a time my partner Peter Lowy and I, we flew to New York to meet with Douglas Elliman. This was the early stages of the conversation on the acquisition. We fly to New York multiple times to meet with them. And my partner Peter is from New York. So we wake up at 5 a.m. in the morning and he wants to walk Central Park. So we walk Central Park and Peter told me, he's like, hey, you're gonna be responsible for answering all the tough questions. I said, okay. And he goes, okay. And then he asked me the question. He goes, Sharran, kind of walk us through the 3 years worth of growth. So he asks me the question that he knows that I'm going to get asked in the boardroom.
Yes.
And then I answer the question. He goes, okay, that was all right. Let's do that again. And
Tweak
he's like,
this, move this.
Change this.
Yeah.
And then and I said, Peter, I don't know how to answer that question. Like, how would you say that? So he would say it to me. And then I say, great, ask me the question again. And then go back and be like, oh, it's interesting that you asked that because we've been thinking a lot about that. There are 4 ways in which I think about it. 1, 2, 3, 4. He goes, that's good. 4's too many. Stay at 3. Okay. Hey, it's interesting that you asked that. There's 3 ways that I think about it. 1, 2, 3. Blah 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 blah. And by the way, there is a 4th as well. And then you add that. That way, it keeps people engaged. Yep. But I completely had it the pillars scripted out. Mm-hmm. So if I can script, if of all people, if partners, principals, CEOs of companies can script out what they're going to say in important situations, you should too. I have a friend, his name is Jason Capital, and I'll tell you this, if there's a quote that should completely change your life, it is this. When you don't script, you don't care. Right? It's so awesome. When you don't script, you don't care. Or if you don't script, you don't care. And like when I heard that from Jason, I was like, this is amazing. You're taking a lot of care.
Yeah. And it makes total sense.
Totally.
Yeah.
So 2 ways to practice role play. Always, 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 always take it extremely seriously and get in character.
Okay.
So never want to be mean. Right? You're not trying to role play the jerk client.
Right.
You're trying to role play a middle of the road situation so you can build confidence.
I think that's important too. You're not trying to throw the other person off. You're not trying to throw random curveballs.
No.
You're trying to role play the most common things.
Correct.
Right? Okay.
Exactly. And so Oliver, you would say, say it's a buyer consultation. You say, oh, you know what? We have to sell our home to buy this next home. I don't know if we can afford it. What is the first thing that you say? So gurus in our industry who've never actually talked to a client will say something like, well, I can appreciate that. Well, no, you can't appreciate that. You can't. Don't say that. That is something that was written in a script book that no one has ever used with a client. Like, that's disingenuous. Don't say that. Because you've never talked to a client. You can't say that. And people studying neuro-linguistic programming are saying the world has changed. You can't say that. You can't say you appreciate that. That's not cool. You can say, oh my gosh, my brother was in a similar situation. That's cool, you connect, right?
Get on the same page.
Right, so ask the question. So one person asks the question, the other person answers the question in a very normal way. So one, take it very seriously and ask the question. And the second thing is, it gets completely more powerful if you can do it in group setting.
Okay.
So if you're in a group, I ask you, there's 8 other people, you and I, it's our turn, you answer, and the group's only job is to tell you the good things you did.
I like that.
No, I would have done this better,
Right.
BS.
Yeah.
No.
Or you missed this or that.
No,
Right.
nobody says that because that's what everybody's doing. Oh, I would have said it differently. I would have
That's
said this.
great.
No, only what Oliver did well. And then the next person, the next person. The job is me leaving the role play session with brimming confidence.
Yeah, you're feeling good. Everyone's
Yeah.
giving love.
Yeah.
Much better environment.
And that way you don't feel like you don't know your scripting. Now everyone is like, so anytime someone comes out of a scripting session, you'll see them come out like this. Because they
Totally. No, I've been there.
Yeah, because they feel like I have work
Yeah.
to do. Not I have work to do is like I'm getting this.
Right.
That's when it gets super
Right.
exciting. So be serious, ask one question, and then do it in a group where you really lift other people up. Amazing things start. People will start to share more. The next person wants to go now, as opposed to not wanting to go. Right. So it gets really exciting.
Great advice on role play and holding your team to a higher standard. So that was for you, Carrie. Wanted to kind of transition now into what you're doing now,
Yeah.
right? So now Kingston Lane, that's your new passion project. Amazing software. Why don't you tell me kind of what the thought process was on what led you down that road?
Yeah, so great question. So after we sold the business, I was reflecting and I thought about if there's one thing I could do differently, what would it be? And the thing that I wanted to do differently was agents, I honestly believe this, you work so hard. You work so hard. You have to wear so many hats. Everyone is teaching you something new to do. Everyone is giving you a new hack. Everyone's giving you a new piece of system. Everyone's giving you a new software.
Yeah.
Everyone is selling you something new. And it's okay. I know they're all good. They all work. But you don't even have time to put your kid to bed. Right? So I was thinking, wouldn't it be amazing if we created something that gave the agent control, but still did all the work? And here's what I mean by that. So Oliver, you're an agent, you want to run a Facebook ad. You would say, oh, I have to go on Facebook. I don't know which audience to run it to. If I got the ad, what picture would I use? What copy would I use? If the ad
Who am I targeting? How do I split test?
Right, and if I got the ad and I got the lead and I actually got the lead, what do I actually say to the lead? What script do I use? Does it go into automation? Like, you have lost yourself in the how before you've even done the what.
Yeah.
Right? And so I will tell you my entire goal has been one thing and one thing alone. Our first year, and you and your team have been a pilot for us, our first year was let's introduce a lot of things to market, but there's a devious plan behind that, right? The plan is, I would love for a way where you as the agent only work in your deep and extreme joy. Meaning, Oliver, here's what happens. You have a database. Your database has 800 people. I want you to hand me the database, and I want you to go away. Give me your database, and we give you engagement and appointments.
2 steps. Give me your database, go away.
That's it. Because my job is to wake up and is to get your. Because now an agent is thinking, well, how are you going to do that? Are you going to text them? How's your copy? Is your copy better than mine? Are you emailing them? Are you spamming them? That's the problem, because now you get stuck in that inertia, right? We have agents in our pilot right now that don't do anything. Just handed us their database, and we work it for them. Old leads that you've never talked to in 3 years, nothing. You don't have to do anything. Our systems, our processes works them. Our copywriter roughly on average charges $1,000 per email to proof.
Wow.
I write the emails, it's our testing. She proofs for that. So these are like best of the best.
Serious copywriter.
Best of the best, right?
Yeah.
And so the idea is hand us your database and we hand you appointments. You need to wake up in the morning and you need to have 4 appointments and you have done nothing. So all our systems are being built in such a way we call it done for you. We need to do everything for you. Database, we generate ads, we generate leads, it goes through all the automation. And at the end, we need to nurture the client so that you get appointments so that you can go do what you do best. If you have to worry about what app to use to create an upper and lower third, what app to use to do a podcast, what app to use to do email marketing, buy another CRM system that you don't ever log into, right? Like, I know you're not going to do it. You know why? Because you're an amazing salesperson.
Right.
If you were a CRM operator, you would be in another career.
Yeah.
Like, let's just be very clear. You're not going to do it. And it's totally cool. Let's own your brilliance. And your brilliance is with the clients. Why do you think a amazing technology company out there right now, pick anyone you want, why do you think they're not calling your clients and talking to them live? Why? They're getting in the business with iBuyer, but why do you think they're not going, why do you think that they're building a technology business and they're just not good at it. They can't do it at scale. You are better at it.
Yep.
My heart goes out to you, the agent. for being the amazing agent that you are, for enduring the pain and the psychological fragility of your clients. Stay in that zone, stay in that goodness, stay in that power, stay in that advisory capacity.
And be clear that the only thing that you have that can't be replaced by technology is the relationship.
Totally.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that I'm going to sell the house. I'm just saying I'm doing whatever it takes to get you the appointment.
Right.
Like I'm in, take your database and get you appointment game. That's my job. It's a very difficult game, but the game that you should not be playing. And by the way, I tell people all the time, agents will tell me I'm really good at marketing. I'm like, great, go be a marketer.
Yeah.
Like, I shouldn't hear I'm really good at marketing from an agent. You should say I'm a really good agent. I'm a really good salesperson. I'm really good selling houses.
Right.
People that tell me they're a really good marketer, and I'm like, well, if you're a really good marketer, I will tell you, the people that tell me that they're really good marketers, I love you all. You are great marketers, but the problem is you overanalyze your marketing pieces so much that they never get out. And that's really hard. Not only is it hard on the marketing team that you work with, it's hard on you. Because you're like, oh my gosh, I've been working 6 months and I haven't gotten this just listed card out.
Yep.
And it crushes you, it crushes your spirit, it crushes your soul. Whereas the person getting it is like, oh cool, Oliver, and tosses
Throw
it.
it in 2 seconds,
Right.
yeah.
And then here's what agents tell me, Oliver. Oh, for those 2 seconds I wanted to establish a brand. I'm like, no, you don't. No, you don't. Like, that's the problem. Like, someone has actually told you that it's okay that they look at your picture on the way to their recycling bin. You think that's okay, but it's not. Like, we need much more quality interactions. We need much more value. We need interactions that actually are like, wow, that was amazing. No wonder I'm going to take an appointment with this person, right? And that's been our thing of, hey, how do we get them to click a button, get a PDF, get an appointment, click a button.
So walk me through how that happens. How does Kingston Lane do that for people?
Yeah, so there's 2 ways a lead or a contact enters your world. You either know them or you don't know them. Right? When you know them, they're in your database of some sort. Okay. And so we put them through a series of very curated, artificially intelligent automations on text, email, et cetera, through that process, with the entire goal of getting them to raise their hand and say, that's interesting, I want to talk to Oliver.
Yeah.
Right? For new leads, the urgency is a little bit more. So I'll give you the title of my current book right now. It actually will get released by the end of the year. And this was the process. The process is this. The number one reason why agents fail in lead generation, right, is because here's what we say. Oh my gosh, I'm going to put them through 10 days of pain. 10 days of pain is the reason they don't want to talk to you.
Right.
You put them through 10 days of hell. Like you call, text, email. How many times do you like getting called, texted, and emailed within a 1 hour period?
Not that much.
Why do we do that to our clients? And we actually promote that as a strategy. We say call, text, email on day 1. Oh, but by the way, if they don't answer, hang up immediately and text them. If I don't answer my phone and you text me immediately, I think it's an emergency with my son's school. Like you're intruding. Why do we do things that we don't like being done to us? Right? And I think that there's a reason for that. The reason is there's a lot of upfront, high pressure marketing. Oh, it's 12 touches, and then once the 12 touches are done, I'm going to give this lead back to you. Right. Well, of course you're going to. You just totally burned them out. Yeah. That's why you're giving them back to me.
Not to mention the 5 other people that bought that same lead are also doing the same thing.
Correct.
So they're getting 300 phone calls in a week.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
So to me, I think there's a 4-step process that you can actually use, and I'd love for you to walk you through this. This is the core of my book. It's called the hero method. The hero method is how do you make the client the hero? And if there's anything that you take away apart from Oliver's good looks in this appointment, in this meeting, right? If there's anything that you take away, please take away this. How the client became your client is more important than the fact that how well you did for them when they are your client. So for example, just because you sold their home for over $100,000 of asking, they do not remember. They do not remember. I will guarantee you quiz your clients, they do not remember how much money you saved them in your request for repairs. They do not remember how much money you got them over asking. But how they became your client is a super powerful process. The listing appointment is a super powerful process. The lead generation is a super powerful process. The nurture is a super powerful process. So there's a 4-step process. We should very quickly. Number 1, let's take a very simple lead. A lead comes in on your website. The first thing they should get is what we call a context bridge. A context bridge is they're just going to get a random email, but they have no idea who you are. They have no idea who Oliver Graf is. So you need to say, hey, Sharran, thank you so much for registering on our website. I know you downloaded the 5 ways to increase the value of your home. Thank you so much. right? Now they're like, oh yeah, I did do that. He followed up on that. That's awesome. That's the context bridge, right? And then next email, a day later is, hey Sharran, I just want to double check. A lot of times people re-email me again and say they wanted like the 7 ways to do that. I just re-included that. This is just as a courtesy. Thank you so much. Here it is. Now what you've done is they're like, oh my gosh, Oliver's such a cool guy. Yes, I forgot that email because I made that email go to scooter32@gmail.com. That's why, because we all have the third email address.
Yeah.
Now they're like, yeah, I should probably mark this guy as whitelist and listen to this guy because you were thoughtful. That's the context bridge. Now, what everybody does is they take that lead and they put them to 10 days of pain and nobody knows who this person is. And they're like, do you want a meeting? Do you want a meeting? Do you want a meeting? Do you want a meeting?
You're calling it 10 days of pain.
But that's what it is. That they call, it's just
totally.
amazing, right?
Yeah.
So the second one, right after you do the context bridge, is what we want to do is I call this the urgency loop. The urgency loop just means, so in our 5 years of testing, there is something called the 10-10-40-40 rule. 10, if you take a normal distribution, 10-10-40-40. 10% of people want to engage with you and talk to you right now. 10% of people never want to talk to you. Never. 40% need time and 40% need education. 80% need time and education.
Really good.
Now, the best part is this. 10% want to do something right now. I want to put a framework in place to activate that 10%. And the entire job of what we call the urgency loop is to activate that 10%.
That's great.
Right? And so we have come up with an artificially intelligent sequence of 11 emails in 7 days, with 11 touches, in 7 days, that dramatically activates that 10%. Right? And so now I go through the context bridge. I'm like, hey, now I got this urgency loop. And if you don't respond to that, I know that you're not in the 10%.
Right, you're not ready now.
No, so now you're one of the 90%.
Okay.
Now, I see if you're into, now I can't fix time, but I can fix education. Now I say, okay, now is Oliver, do I have to teach him more about this? So I call the third step of the process, the story ask. The story ask.
Story ask, okay.
So you say, hey, I want to tell you about my client Sharran. My client Sharran did XYZ, ABC. If you were anything like my client Sharran, the one thing that he told me was that he would have just had a 15-minute strategy conversation before he did anything. And as a commitment to Sharran, I want to do the same for you. It's a 15-minute no obligation strategy conversation. Just click the link below. Right? That's a story.
Yep.
So now I'm like, oh, now I'm thinking I should probably call my agent and ask this agent and ask this question, right? So you've got the context bridge, saying who you are, the urgency loop, figuring out who the 10% is, the story ask,
okay.
figuring out who the other 40%. Now we have the other 50% left. And the last one is called the goodwill river. Now you have no idea what else to do. So what you do is you hit cadence. Every Wednesday, every Thursday, every other week, you're dripping on them with a VIP list, with something of value, something thoughtful.
Right.
But you're staying on the cadence. What you send them is not important. When you send them is more important. So you're always there every week.
Consistency.
Every week. Like I write an email a day right now. My email, I send 1 million emails a month. I write 1 email a day, right? And so I have the permission to be in my subscribers' inbox every single day.
Right.
I can ask them for whatever I want because I'm not going to do it in a...
And they're okay with that.
And they're okay with that.
Yeah.
And I have actually skipped a day once because I changed AM to PM in my distribution. And I got like hundreds of emails back saying, what happened? Did you take me off your list?
Why am I not getting
Why am I not getting this, etc., right?
Yeah.
So I'll say this again, and when my book comes out, we'll post it, but it's the context bridge, the urgency loop, the story ask, and the goodwill river. And the entire Kingston Lane, what we call it the beast. Like we just say, hey, our job is to feed the beast, and the beast will spit out appointments. So when we feed the beast, we go through context bridge, urgency loop, story ask, goodwill river, and we keep staying, and we do it all for you so that you don't have to do it and you can be out there serving your clients.
So these people, when they're part of your system, don't need to worry about any of that?
Nothing. They don't even need to log into their CRM.
So what are you calling this? Is this a software or is this a CRM or what do you refer to it as?
We refer to it as a system. We call it revenue systems. So it is, we try to aggregate the best pieces of software that we have, either what we've built or third-party stuff. But we found the number one problem is not buying a piece of software, is buying multiple pieces of software and then integrating them all together. So we just do the integration so that it all runs well.
And what's your goal with Kingston Lane?
Okay, this time the goal is I just want to get as many people on to create those 2 reasons why you got in the business. No cap in income and the least amount of time. Because now if you're only doing what you love, we get to we get to do everything else. So I don't have like a massive goal to sell the business. I just want to create as many millionaire entrepreneurs that I can because I believe in this business. I believe in what agents do. And I think they do too much. And because of that, it hurts them. It hurts their productivity. It hurts their joy. It hurts their service. And if you can stay in your joy and let us do the rest.
What's very interesting about what you just said is that it's almost the same value proposition as Teles.
Yeah.
It's the saving people time.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
So if you're in the business of saving people time, now you've just created a software that allows them to save time and have better results.
So it's funny you say that. You're very intuitive. The thing is, what couldn't I do at Teles? I couldn't serve agents around the world. And I wanted to build, I've never built a worldwide business, had three, never built a worldwide business. And I wanted to roll out, so we built an international platform from day one. So we have agents from 12 countries from day one. I always wanted to do that. And that's the one thing we couldn't do at Teles, to build Teles, if you will, the brains for everybody. And that was the goal.
So how can they get it for the people that want to give it a try?
Yeah, so it's super easy. You can get free versions. You can get free access to stuff just to try it out at kingstonlane.com. So it's spelled exactly that way you say it, kingstonlane.com. And when you get in there and it asks, just reference the show and maybe we'll send you some goodies as well. So kingstonlane.com, grab a free account. It's free to try everything. And we also realized one thing, Oliver. Nobody in the real estate business has any predictability in their income. So the one thing I decided was that we would have no contracts, no commitments.
Love it.
So it's
cancel
anytime, month to month, because I believe that if we can't earn the business and show you insane value, you should not pay us anything.
Yeah.
And so we are one of the very, very few, kind of service system providers out there that are month to month, no contracts, no commitments, and for anything that we do.
And we've rolled it out in our brokerage to our almost 1,000 agents and have gotten insanely good feedback. The coolest part is it's so easy to use. Like you can just log in. You can launch a Facebook campaign in 3 clicks.
Yeah.
You can launch a new listing in 3 clicks. Everything's very simple and designed to save you time and increase profits. So amazing software. Definitely check that out. I want to wrap up with 2 questions that I like to ask everyone, and that's what is like your favorite tools, apps, softwares that you just love in your business that are saving you time, helping you do whatever it is you do to get good results?
Yeah, totally. So we use a project management system called monday.com.
Okay.
It's been great. We rolled it out recently. We committed as a company to using it as a power user. Everybody learned the system. Everyone's using it. We cut email, cut Slack. Like we have others, but if there's anything related to a certain project, we do everything. We utilize the system completely. And when we started committing to the system committed to us, right? It almost felt that way. And we got results when we said everyone is committed to doing this. And it changed everything. So when someone was out on vacation, everything was there. And it was super powerful.
That's project management.
Project management.
Got it. Okay.
Project management. We launched a new podcast, very similar to you, but we launched a new podcast just to help agents around the world. It's free, of course. It's the Kingston Lane podcast. We've tried to keep it 5 to 7 minutes, very tactical.
Love that.
So if you like what we do, it's very, very tactical. And we did the whole thing all on free tools. We just wanted to do it all on free tools.
That's great.
So we used anchor.com to deploy the podcast. And every tool that we used to deploy the podcast, we made sure it was free. So we could go out and have this conversation and say, you can launch an amazing podcast without audio engineering capabilities for free and add value that way. So there's a lot of free stuff out there. And Anchor is one of ours. Just use it for free.
So Anchor and monday.com, definitely go check those out. And then what is your advice to people that want to get to the next level? Because you've built several successful businesses, you've had several successful exits. So what is the Sharran formula for that?
Yeah, so I'll answer it differently. So let's say I was the one, not the regret, but if I were to do one thing differently earlier, what would I do? And it may sound a little hokey, but I would get a highly paid, highly compensated coach or mentor much earlier. Much earlier. And I'll tell you what happened. So I was down in the dumps one day, Our business was not going. I was at Telus. The business was not going great. I was trying to figure my stuff out. I called my dad and I said, hey Dad, I'm struggling with this. My dad's like, hey, I heard there's a speaker in San Francisco. You should go listen to her. She's talking about how to save your health and save your business or whatever. So I was like, whatever. So I pay like $300, drive to San Francisco. I go listen to the speaker, and Oliver, everything she said felt like she was talking to me. Mm-hmm. I was going to raise my hand and she would answer the question. It was like a perfect kind of thing. And I was just sitting in the back of the room. So I called my dad on the way back. I'm like, Dad, you won't believe it. Like, she was amazing. And my dad said, well, do you think she could add better value to you personally? And I said, yeah. He goes, well, you should ask her. I said, Dad, like, I can't afford this. And so he said, I kid you not, he's exactly this. He said, pick a number that is painful yet affordable. And let's pick a number, right?
Yeah.
$10,000.
Yeah.
And he said, write an email to her saying, hey, so-and-so, I saw you speak and at this location, it changed my life. And this was his quote. My dad's big on scripting. He said, I would like to offer you this X, $10,000, as a symbol of my seriousness.
Ooh.
As a symbol of my seriousness. And all I ask in return is that you prioritize my communication. I don't need one-on-one meetings, nothing. Just when I email you, email me back. She responded saying, is this a joke? Right? And I said, no, I'm 100% right. She goes, write it up. So I printed the email. I don't know what write it up means. I signed it. I sent her the email printed out and a check for 10 grand. She became my first coach. I paid her a ton more money than that over the years.
Yeah.
And her entire job was to help me become a better leader to grow Teles 10X.
That's amazing.
And if I could have accelerated that process in any way, I would have done that so much earlier. Like I pay so much money for coaching right now and mentoring right now, and I just believe that. I believe so much in that. And
I actually do too, 100%. Yeah. And I'm curious just what your thoughts are on what it was about her that had the impact.
Yeah, so I think what I needed at that time was I thought I had all the answers. And the interesting part is for entrepreneurs, when you and I are stuck on a problem, called the 15-minute rule. Mm-hmm. If you and I work on a problem together and you're really working on it and you try to solve it, and in 15 minutes you don't get a solution, you get deeply frustrated. Like my wife, she's an amazing engineer, et cetera. She can work for 3 days on a problem. But when you work for 15 minutes and don't get a solution, you're deeply frustrated and you have nobody to talk to about it. Because now what do you go to a team and say, I don't know how to do this? Like you feel weird about it.
Right.
And the second is our highest of highs and our lowest of lows, the top 5% and the bottom 5%, it's very hard to share it with somebody. So let's say you're having a tough day with your partner. Who do you share it with? Not your spouse. Right. They don't want to hear it.
Yeah.
Right? And nobody that can actually give you really good perspective. So the 15 and 5 is really important. So what she helped me was get through the 15. I worked through a problem. I didn't get a solution. She gave me a little outside perspective, changed my thinking, and I was off to the races. It was really powerful. And the second is the highest of highs and the lowest of lows. Like, yeah, we sold a business and we came home and my wife told me go get some more milk. Like, that's normal.
Yeah, take the garbage out,
It's
honey.
okay. It's totally okay, right? But to have someone harness the entrepreneurial energy from the 15 and the 5 gets super powerful.
I love that.
Yeah. So I would say just the faster you can get a coach, and if the coach has not been there, done it, I'm sorry, like it's hard for me.
Yeah, me too.
I don't think they can help see around corners. So if you ask me, hey, how do you 10x a business? I could probably, or Roland, we can give you the roadmap. I can walk you through the pain before it becomes pain.
Yep.
I can walk you through the success before it becomes success. But that's like, asking a golf instructor who's never hit a golf ball. Right. It's kind of weird, right? And so I will gladly, I paid when I was transitioning from after Teles to Douglas Elliman, after Douglas Elliman to the new venture, I paid a really well-known coach who helps people with after-selling businesses. I paid him $35,000 for 1 day.
Wow.
And you've done a couple of those.
No, we've
you've
done
a couple
that
of
too.
those.
Yeah,
You've done a couple of power days.
Yeah.
I did a 1 day, and like that was. First time I'd done that. I've done bigger checks for longer amounts of time, but that also made me show up better. I was like, hey, I'm in. I'm making this work.
And a lot of people can't wrap their head around a price tag like that. And the best way that I can describe it, and this is another one from Greg Reed, is he was like, look, I wanted to climb K2 or Mount Kilimanjaro. Yeah. And he was like, I wasn't going to hire some random person off the street to take me up there. I wanted to hire a Sherpa that's been up it 10,000 times already. And all I did is I walked in his exact footsteps up the mountain.
Totally.
And it was the safest, quickest, most efficient route of getting there. And so by just paying that money up front, you're either going to pay in one of two ways. You're either going to pay the cash or you're going to pay in time. And in most scenarios, especially, you know, in really niche type situations, a lot of times it makes sense to just pay for the advice and shortcut the success.
The few CEOs that I mentor, like every Monday, I've told you this, every Monday I write a kickoff email to my company, and I share that email with the 7 CEOs that I mentor. I actually know one guy that has a huge company, 442 people. He actually takes that email, copy, pastes it, changes the name, and he sends it to his entire team.
I love it.
He's like, why would I change anything? This makes total sense, and Sharran already wrote it. I'm just gonna use the blueprint, and now like his engagement is up, his culture is up, everything is up, and he goes, hey, this is amazing. So I think you and I are similar. If you find a way to, like if I told you that you could spend a weekend with me for $10,000, I'm picking up a number, and I would show you how to take your listing presentation from here to here, you would be crazy not to do it. There's no chance you're gonna get access to that unless you go to closing table, but like that would be a no-brainer investment for someone who's like, oh my God, it's 10 grand.
And you'll make that money up so fast,
like that,
right? That's the crazy part.
Yeah, Carrie Scholl, they made, I think, $1.6 million in like 12 weeks or not, just by implementing a few things, which is amazing.
Yeah, she credits that to your listing presentation.
Thankful,
So if you want more on that listing presentation, come to our Closing Table Mastermind. You can find out more at closingtablemastermind.com. We'd love to have you. And really appreciate the time, man. It's been an awesome interview. We'll see you on the next Founders Club.